What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories. 2MHA Chapter 26 I can't cooperate with this Chi Feng is at the first level of Chi training. His hearing is naturally very sensitive. Hearing what the professional heroes said, his face changed. This FCK is the rhythm to catch him. Chi Feng's face is a bit unsightly. He has just arrived here for a short time, and he will be wanted by professional heroes before he starts to show off his skills. This is too bloody, got it. But he must hurry up and leave, and he won't be able to leave when some powerful professional heroes arrive. Chi Feng glide toward the river where he had come before. The river is off the beaten track and is easy to escape. Just when Chi Feng arrived at the riverside, black shadows attacked him. Chi Feng changed the airflow to avoid the crisis, and only after landing on the ground did he see who attacked him. Kamui Woods. Chi Feng was taken aback. Why did this Kamui Woods come? Could it be that the previous professional heroes and Kamui Woods were related to subordinates? Suspicious guy, give up resistance and come with me, Kamui Woods said, standing on an abandoned sail. Excuse me, am I guilty? Chi Feng asked suddenly. Kamui Woods froze for a moment and then said, although you did not do anything to harm the people, you are suspicious and need to be investigated by us. I'm sorry, I can't cooperate with this. What a joke, if Chi Feng cooperates with Kamui Woods to go back for the investigation, wouldn't it all leak? Then don't blame me for being polite. Kamui Woods leapt up and waved his hands towards Chi Feng. His fingers stretched out like tree roots with dozens of wood vines, and they entangled Chi Feng. Preemptive strikes, succubus locks up. As expected to be a new professional heroes, his strength is really extraordinary. The brown wood vine thorns attacked Chi Feng. When he saw that he was about to be entangled, Chi Feng waved his left hand and an invisible force appeared. It seemed that the air in front of him was covered. Solidified. The sumac tree cast by Kamui Woods was locked and unable to move forward, and was blocked by the airflow. This is. Kamui Woods' face changed. He hadn't seen this kind of method before, and he had a hard time today. Chi Feng looked into the distance. 3 or 4 figures came here. He couldn't be in love, otherwise he would not be an opponent if there were too many people. Don't want to leave. Kamui Woods saw Chi Feng turned his head and rushed into the river. His face suddenly changed. But it was still a step too late. By the time Death Shaquan arrived, Chi Feng had already disappeared in the water. Chi Feng controls the oxygen and air in the water and moves quickly like a fish under the water. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. Air manipulation is not only as simple as controlling the air. The air contains oxygen, nitrogen and rare gases such as argon, neon, helium, krypton, xenon, etc. Chi Feng can create a vacuum around it, and it can also generate a strong air current, even an air storm can. To put it bluntly, the elemental system will suffer from this supernatural power. The flame can be extinguished instantly, and other elemental quirks can use the air barrier or airflow blocking skills to make the surrounding vacuum and form an invincible place. Escape? Death Shaquan stood by the river and stared at the bottom of the river. Kamui Woods suddenly said, we seem to be in trouble. This guy has a very strong quirk, and seems to be able to control the airflow or manipulate the wind. In short, my sumac lock is useless to him. Death Shaquan frowned and said, when did we come here with such a powerful guy? Is it an enemy or a friend? I don't know, Kamui Woods analyzed. If he shot me just now, I think I am definitely not his opponent, but he didn't do it. Maybe he was scared away when he saw us supporting him, said the professional heroes who was standing behind. Impossible. With his strength, he won't escape. Even if we go together, we may not win him. Kamui Woods' high evaluation of Chi Feng surprised everyone. There are 4 professional heroes on their side, and they are all very strong. Normal criminals or villain are not their opponents. Did they encounter something special this time? Go back and report to the police station first, and then inform the major heroes' offices. There may be problems lately, Death Shaquan said anxiously, and everyone returned to the office. After half an hour, Chi Feng found a place where no one was going to land. There was no trace of water on his body. It seemed that he hadn't been in the water just now. It's almost overturned in the gutter. Chi Feng didn't expect that today he was going out to do good deeds, but he was targeted by professional heroes. However, it is inevitable that he will not be thought of too much when he is dressed like this, and it is reasonable. This trip was not without gain. Chi Feng received 50 rescue points from Tencha, the second from the left. There are also 50 rescue points from Kayama Nana. Tencha Zuo should be the coxcomb head that was suffocated by him before, and he should have been scared and dare not do bad things again. Shongshan Nana's words should be the woman who was snatched by the coxcomb head. Now that the property returns to the original owner, the salvation points will naturally be added to Chi Feng. Boss, a bowl of 3 fresh ramen. Chi Feng took off his cloak and went to the Chianweiman ramen restaurant, which is the ramen restaurant he usually eats. He was hungry after tossing all night. Good. The fat boss saw that Chi Feng was happy. This kid often eats ramen with him. He seems to be hooked, so he needs to add more ingredients. After Chi Feng sat down in his old position, he began to recall what happened before. Kamui Woods, as a new professional heroes, is still very strong. Although Chi Feng blocked the opponent's signature skills with airflow, it was also very difficult. Thinking about it, I am still a little scared. If he is locked by Kamui Woods, he must use Thor's return. As long as the Thunder Quirk is exposed, it is only a matter of time to find Chi Feng. After all, there are not many Thunder Quirks in the island country. There is one in UA High School, and it is still a dark horse. Ramen is here. The fat boss smiled, holding the bowl, put the bowl down and smiled. I haven't seen you here 2 days ago. Oh, Heroes Academy started school a few days ago. I don't have time to go to school. Chi Feng smelled the ramen, it was so fragrant. Red and tender and plump shrimps, crispy and juicy pork bones. Wow, you were admitted to UA High School. I thought you were bragging. The fat boss laughed and patted Chi Feng on the back, a little lamented. Did you talk like that? Chi Feng curled his lips. Look at me like this, which is not like a UA college student? Which is it like? The fat boss asked, pretending to be puzzled. Okay, let's make your ramen. Chi Feng didn't bother to talk to him. Ha ha ha, send you a bottle of drink, congratulations. The fat boss put the drink on the table and went to make ramen with a smile. Chi Feng actually knows that although this boss has a bit of love for money, he is indeed a good person. He didn't take what he said before, and Chi Feng was just a joke. Chapter 27. Yesterday's combat training, you have worked hard. A lazy Aizawa Shota on the podium said, I have watched BTR and grades, Bakugo, what you have is the ability. Don't do that kind of kid behavior in the future. I know. Bakugo Katsuki curled his lips. Then, Midoriya, Aizawa Shota sighed, does it end up with a broken arm this time? Regarding the broken arm of Midoriya, it was caused by fighting with Tokiyami Fumikage. Tokiyami Fumikage's quirk would increase several times in the dark and even lose control. The building is dim. Tokiyami Fumikage's quirk has been greatly strengthened. Midoriya is used as a last resort. One for all. The control of quirk, don't always use a can't do it so there is no way, as an excuse. This will not pass my level. I don't like to say the same thing over and over again. If you can overcome this, you can do a lot of things. Now, Aizawa Shota said educationally. Hurry up, Midoriya. Yes, Midoriya nodded and said firmly. In addition, there is Chi Feng. Aizawa Shota looked at Chi Feng who was sitting in the last row by the window, and said with some approval. One person can contend with two powerful quirks, but still not let down. I believe you must be an outstanding career heroes in the future. Thank you Mr. Aizawa for your approval. Chi Feng stood up and bowed to Aizawa Shota. Cut. What to pretend to be? Bakugo Katsuki said uncomfortably. The classmates all looked at Chi Feng enviously. It was an honor and pride to be recognized by teacher Aizawa. Aizawa Shota pressed his hand, and then pressed his eyes. Shoto Todoroki didn't speak. Shoto Todoroki had a flat face. It seemed that these things didn't matter to him. The only thing he cared about was Chi Feng. Next to the main topic of the class meeting, I'm sorry for being rushed, but today I want to invite you. Is it a temporary test again? This is what most people think. However, Aizawa Shota said, decide on the selection of the academic committee. The students immediately complained in their hearts. Finally, there is something that a normal school would do. For a while, everyone started to select themselves. Chi Feng didn't say anything. He was not interested in being the monitor. For the monitor, he thought Iida Tenya would be more appropriate. Quiet. Iida Tenya suddenly stood up and shouted, and the class fell silent for a while, and everyone looked at him. This is a job that leads the people and has a heavy responsibility. You can do it just if you just want to be it, right? Iida Tenya said solemnly. You must be trusted by the people around you to take up this priesthood. If you want to follow democracy, let everyone here choose the real leader. I think this proposal should be decided by voting. Don't you also raise your hands high? Everyone complained. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. Why make such a suggestion? Kaminari Denki asked puzzledly. Everyone has only met for a long time, and there is no trust at all, Iida-chan. Suyu-chan said with a finger in her face. I'll definitely vote for myself, Kirishima Eijiro said with his hands. So, in this situation, the person who can get the votes is truly worthy of the big job, isn't it? Iida Tenya asked Aizawa Shota, what do you think, teacher? At this time, Aizawa Shota has wrapped herself tightly in a yellow sleeping bag, like a caterpillar, whatever you want, as long as you decide in this class. After everyone's discussion and self-assessment, the voting results finally came out. Chi Feng, Yayorozu Momo, and Midoriya Izuku all voted twice, and the rest basically voted for themselves. Chi Feng looked at the words on the blackboard and thought, it should have been Midoriya first, followed by Yayorozu Momo, but now the three of them have the same number of votes. Why would anyone vote for a long time? Who is it? Bakugo Katsuki slapped the table and stood up. Well, I just know it's better than voting for you, Shiro Honda said with a smile. What are you talking about, bastard? Bakugo Katsuki looked like he was about to hit someone. Chi Feng stood up and said, I gave up the opportunity to be the monitor. I will leave these 2 votes to Mr. Iida. It's like you can be the class leader without giving someone else. Bakugo Katsuki said with his arms folded. Chi Feng ignored him, but looked at Iida Tenya. Mr. Chi Feng, Why do you give me the votes? Are you really simply not wanting to participate in the election? Iida asked in surprise. I just think you are more suitable to be the class leader. Chi Feng said that there is no problem. The class leader naturally wears glasses to do it, especially for a straightforward person like Iida. Thank you, Chi Feng. Iida thanked. In the end, after a decision, Iida succeeded in becoming the class leader. At this moment, he seemed to be a little bold, and this moment also meant that his responsibilities were heavier. Midoriya gave up being the deputy squad leader, who was handed over to Yaoyorozu Momo as the deputy squad leader. However, Yaoyorozu Momo wondered why Chi Feng chose to give up. According to Chi Feng's ability, he is fully capable of acting as a squad leader. Chi Feng is not a person who is good at management, he would rather be free and worry about so much. At noon, Chi Feng knew that an emergency would happen today, the hero's barrier would be destroyed, and then reporters would rush in, causing the students to panic and congestion because of the enemy attack. He simply went to eat later, and entered the cafeteria after almost time, but there seemed to be a lot of people. The students from the support department and the business department were all here. Chi Feng saw the three Midoriya chatting. It was about time that the alarm sounded. Ring ling ling. The alarm sounded. All the students in the cafeteria panicked. This alarm only sounded when villain invaded. Is there an enemy attack? Safety Defense 3 has been breached. Please go to the outdoor shelter as soon as possible. The broadcast. Excuse me, what is the security defense? Iida turned to ask the students on the side. That means someone has invaded into the school building. This is the first time this happened in the last 3 years. You should go to evacuate. After that, the student ran away. Then there was a crowded situation. Chi Feng was eating Chinese food in the cafeteria unhurriedly. Seeing these students squeeze around, it seemed that they were about to fight. Suddenly Chi Feng found that Shoto Todoroki did not stand up not far from him, and was eating like him. Oh! Chi Feng smiled, and took the plate to sit down in front of Shoto Todoroki. It's this time, are you so calm? Shoto Todoroki saw that it was Chi Feng. Although he was a little surprised, he quickly let go, and said faintly, it's useless to be nervous. If there really is villain coming, it will only hit villain like them. Embrace ignorance. This made Chi Feng take a high look, as expected of Mr. Heng, insightful. Chapter 28 The Legend of Dark Knight. Shoto Todoroki feels that Chi Feng is sometimes very rude. He can definitely rely on his strength to eat. What if he pretends to be a little colder? But Shoto Todoroki really doesn't like talking. It should be said that he doesn't like talking to people he doesn't know well. Please let All Might out quickly, he should be inside, the female reporter said aggressively. I said he won't go to work today. Present Mike was speechless. At this time the reporter said again, as long as he comes out to say something, we will go back. Aizawa Shota stretched out her hand to stop him and said, you people, if you have the first sentence, you will want the second sentence. Present Mike suddenly leaned into Aizawa Shota's ear and said, they are an illegal invasion. It is equivalent to villain. Can I beat them away? Don't do that, Mike. Aizawa Shota said with half his eyes open. You will definitely be reported by them if you do that. Let's wait for the police to come. Aizawa Shota and Present Mike can only deal with reporters at the door. After all, they're the people, and they can't mess with them. After Iida controlled the flustered classmates, the police arrived in time and dispersed the reporters and the public. At the school gate, after the crowd evacuated. How can ordinary media reporters do this kind of thing? The principal stood there looking at the ruins of the hero's barrier with his hands on his back and said, it seems that someone is urging them, or there are evil people in the mix. In it, maybe someone is planning to declare war on us. Teacher Midnight and others were silent, and they also felt that someone should have instigated it or an evil person did it. Chi Feng knew that a storm was coming and the villain alliance was coming. In this regard, after school, for the sake of safety, he is ready to make some extra money. Wearing a black cloak, gliding between the buildings, Chi Feng focused his eyes on the corners of the city and the blind spots of some cameras. If you are acquainted, take the money out, otherwise you know the consequences. In a lane, a red-haired young man put a sword on the neck of a man with glasses and said viciously, it's wrong for you to do this. If you abuse the quirk on ordinary people, you will be wanted by the heroes. Although the man in glasses was panicked, he didn't stubbornly speak, and he still had a dominant position. Heroes? The red-haired young man murmured, and then said with a smile, don't be silly, do you expect them to save you? I ran away long ago after I got the money. Who caught me? I caught you. A voice came from above, and a dark shadow suddenly fell from the sky. Who are you? The red-haired young man asked vigilantly. The other party was dressed in pitch black, even the outline of his face was not clearly visible, and he was very disguised. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. Who am I? Suddenly Chi Feng thought about it seriously, and then said, I am a legend of the Dark Knight, I specialize in the Dark Knight, and I exist to clean up people like you. Brain is sick. The red-haired young man yelled, kicked the man in glasses away, and rushed towards Chi Feng. His quirk is to multiply the strength of his body by 2, and then focus on a certain part, which means that the strength of his punch will be the sum of the strength of 2 or even 3 adults. Seeing this punch at him, Chi Feng didn't move. The red-haired man suddenly broke his teeth and flew out several meters away. Will you be convinced? Chi Feng asked when he came to the red-haired man. You. What did you do? The red-haired man looked at Chi Feng in horror. He ran well just now, and it seemed that he crashed into a car and hit him directly. But the scary thing is that he didn't even see this guy making a move. Lousy asks you what to say, asks if you accept it. Chi Feng slapped the red-haired young man on the face, and the last tooth fell out. Woo! The red-haired young man cried in pain. He had never been beaten like this since he was a child, and he was so embarrassed. The man with glasses on the side didn't run away, but looked a little dumbfounded. This man named Nighttail is too powerful. He didn't even see how the other party made the move. The red-haired young man fell to the ground and vomited blood. I ask you again, are you convinced? Chi Feng stood up. Serve. Serve. I took it. The red-haired young man burst into tears, crying like a child. Get plus 50 salvation points, the rescued person Muratamoto. When Chi Feng saw the news, he turned his head and said to the research man, call the police and hand him over to the police. After speaking, he shot up into the sky, like a Superman in a black robe. It's so cool, said the man with glasses admiringly. The same incidents continued to happen this evening. Chi Feng earned a full 700 salvation points this evening. At the same time, the Nomu legend of the night was circulated by the common people. For a time, professional heroes knew that there was this number one character. He specializes in acting in the dark, specializing in cleaning up market rascals and those who abuse the ability of Quirk. He is powerful and features a black cloak. Although the legend of the night is praised by the people, it is not popular in the eyes of professional heroes. Because the legend of the night is not a professional hero, it needs to hide its head and reveal its tail, and is unwilling to confess its identity. Such a person is in charge of Hero's office. No matter what the legend of the night is in the eyes of the people or how many people he has helped, as long as they don't have a hero's license, they will have to be taken away for investigation. After Chi Feng returned home, he took a hot shower as always, and then ordered a takeaway. Only then did the lucky draw begin. Obtain system goods Chi pill. Obtain system goods love chocolate. Chi Feng was in a good mood after seeing the first lottery item. When he saw the second one, his eggs hurt. Love chocolate. Is this system store a snack shop? Chi Feng would like to ask the system why it is not just food or daily necessities, and even black dresses worn by women. What the hell is going on? Give the chocolates to Sakura. Chi Feng thought in his heart, planning to give the chocolates to Inoue Sakura, who usually takes care of him. Then Chi Feng ate the Chi pill and began to meditate. Even if he did not take the Chi pill, he would practice on the rooftop every day. Although the effect was mediocre, there was victory and nothing, but the most important thing in doing anything was persistence, only persistence, to have a harvest. Chi Lian Chi pill is also extremely domineering, forming a heat flow in Chi Feng's body, heading towards the limbs. In the early morning of the next day, Chi Feng opened his eyes, and his cultivation came to the second floor of Chi training. Then Chi Feng went to the mall to buy a Quirk promotion pill, and upgraded Thor to LV3. Thor comes back LV 3,100,300, open black lens bracket air operated LV 3150300 close black lens bracket. Space storage. Black dress, Quirk supplement, love chocolate, yellow man toothpaste. Since Chi Feng has used air control frequently recently, some experience points have been improved. After everything was ready, Chi Feng had the confidence to face the attack of the Villain Alliance and even helped All Might through the difficult period. Chapter 29 Villain Prelude. In the early morning, Chi Feng collected his work on the rooftop as always. At present, he has enough strength to fight the Villain Alliance. The prerequisite for this kind of confrontation is the presence of teachers and classmates. He is still too tender. Now he is practicing the second level of Chi, and his physical fitness is much stronger than that of normal people, and he can easily accelerate and jump in short distances. Thor is coming back to LV3, which is more handy than what Chi Feng used before. Now he should be able to condense and perform more powerful tricks. If he does it with Shoto Todoroki now, Shoto Todoroki is definitely not his 1-in-1. However, he doesn't know whether Shoto Todoroki has improved his strength. After all, his appearance can change the structure of some of the original world and accelerate the transformation. Air Control LV3 is at the same level as Thor's return, but Chi Feng feels that the critical moment is still to rely on air control. This intangible ability to kill is the most deadly. If it cooperates with Thor's return, Chi Feng can't imagine how much strong. After returning home, putting his backpack on his back, Chi Feng bought an Ultraman mask from a nearby toy store, which was still Tiga's. After putting Tiga Ultraman's mask in his backpack, Chi Feng embarked on the road to UA High School. Today is a special day. The Villain Alliance will appear for the first time, opening the door of evil and permeating the world with darkness. It is also because of this incident that the students of Heroes Class A will be baptized in battle, and they will also understand that the world is not peaceful and darkness is everywhere. Today's Heroes Basics needs to be carried out by me, All Might, and another teacher, and the three people supervise it together. Aizawa Shota said with half his eyes open. Ask, what kind of content is it? Shiro Honta raised his hand. Aizawa Shota waved his right hand, holding a sign in his hand that read, Rescue Training in the event of natural disasters and floods and other accidents. Rescue. This time it feels choking, Kaminari Denki said with some worry. Sitting in the back seat, Chi Feng constantly demonstrates his fighting skills in his mind, and he is also gathering strength. Now he wants to adjust his body to the best state, and the battle is about to come. You fool, this is Hiro's job, alright. Kirishima Eijiro clenched his fists and said excitedly. I'm already eager to try. In the event of a flood, that would be my stage alone, chirp, chirp, Suyu-chan said happily. At this time, Aizawa Shota said solemnly, hey, I haven't finished speaking yet, this time the clothes can be selected at your discretion. After all, there should be some clothes that are limited to specific events. The training ground is a bit far away from here. I'll take a bus and start preparing. Aizawa Shota vaguely thinks that something will happen today, but think about it because he didn't sleep well last night. Rescue training, in order to get close to the yearning in my heart. Midoriya clenched his fists, recalling All Might's feat of saving people, the training for getting close to the best heroes. I want to go. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. The school bus hadn't come yet, and the students were all waiting downstairs. At this moment, Iida Tenya came to Chi Feng and suddenly smiled, showing a row of big white teeth. Mr. Iida, Chi Feng looked at Iida Tenya suspiciously. Is this guy a second-degree ill person? Seeing that Chi Feng didn't understand, Iida Tenya burst into laughter again, and then let out a sigh of relief at Chi Feng. Chi Feng frowned and asked, Mr. Iida, do you have any disease? Iida Tenya stopped joking with Chi Feng. Chi Feng, I just want to express that the toothbrush you gave me yesterday is very useful. You see my teeth are much whiter than before, and people seem to be more energetic. Chi Feng was taken aback. It turned out to be the matter. He thought Iida Tenya was guilty of the second illness. Is it so magical? Chi Feng suddenly felt a little regretful. Sure enough, the items in the system are not simple, but since the thing's sent out, he naturally won't want to come back. Iida Tenya has already brushed his teeth. He is asking it's really abnormal when I come back to brush my teeth. And doesn't he still have a yellow toothpaste? I'll know when I go home and use it. Maybe the effect is very good. Of course, don't you know yourself? Iida Tenya thought Chi Feng knew the efficacy of this toothbrush, but it seemed that Chi Feng didn't know it. Ha ha ha, I know. Chi Feng slopped when the school bus had arrived. At this time, Iida Tenya's face suddenly changed, and he fumbled out a whistle from nowhere. After blowing it, he said, Assemble 1A. In order to get on the car in an orderly manner, please arrange them in 2 rows according to the number. Iida-san is so energetic, Midoriya said ashamed. After getting in the car, I realized that the seat was back against the window. Iida Tenya was a little speechless. Damn it, is it this type? Chi Feng patted him on the back and comforted him. It's okay, things are impermanent. It's a waste of effort. Ashido Mina, who was sitting on the other side, smiled. Asui Suyu sat next to Midoriya and suddenly said, I am a person who will directly say whatever comes to mind, Midoriya-chan. What, Asui classmate? Midoriya didn't react for a moment and was a little surprised. Call me Suyu-chan. Asui Suyu emphasized again, he seemed to like people calling her that way. Your quirk is very similar to All Might. Yes, is that so? Midoriya Izuku said in a panic. He felt that something would happen if he continued to talk like this. Oh, but that. Wait, Suyu-chan. Kirishima Eijiro said with a smile at this time. All Might won't be hurt, it can only be said to be paradoxical. Midoriya finally breathed a sigh of relief. Kirishima Eijiro really helped a lot. However, this kind of enhanced simple and straightforward quirk is good, it can do a lot of gorgeous things. Kirishima Eijiro stretched out his left hand, his whole arm instantly solidified. My hardening is really strong for people. But it looks a bit too earthy. I think it's very handsome. In professional heroes, it is also a very versatile quirk. Midoriya said with a smile. He really thinks Kirishima Eijiro's quirk is cool and King Kong is not bad. Professional heroes, but I think that heroes really need some highlights to increase their popularity, such as Chi Feng Jun's. It is very cool. Kirishima Eijiro said with some envy. Chi Feng waved his hand and said, everyone is the same. Try to be a better person. Only when you become stronger can you be worthy of the title of heroes, right? Mr. Chi Feng is right, it's very deep. Iida Tenya laughed. At this time, Aoyama Yuga said, my belly button laser is expert in both the scene effect and the power. But it's not good if you mess up your stomach. Ashido Mina put a hand on Aoyama Yuga and smiled. Chapter 33 Nomu. But when it comes to being gorgeous and powerful, it really is Chi Feng and Bakugo. Kirishima Eijiro envied these 3 classmates very much. Their moves were gorgeous and hurting and exploding. Don't compare me to the guy who uses thunder. Bakugo Katsuki said angrily. Also, why'd I rank last in your mouth? Baohouchan is always going crazy. I don't feel like it will be popular. Suyuchan said truthfully. What are you talking about, asshole? There must be. Bakugo Katsuki immediately violent. Look. Suyu-chan turned her head and pointed at Bakugo Katsuki, explaining that what she said was correct, and that the other party was indeed prone to madness. It hasn't been long since I met, and your character like shit cooked in a stinking ditch has been seen through. It's powerful enough. Kaminari Denki said indifferently, without any guilty conscience. What kind of words are in your dictionary? Bastard, lousy killed you. Bakugo Katsuki felt like he was going to hit someone, and these classmates made him angry. Xiao Sheng was actually bullied. It's an incredible scene. It's UA. Midoriya held his head in disbelief. It's a vulgar conversation. Yaoyorozu Momo covered his mouth with his hands, but his chest was clamped together. Chi Feng's eyes straightened as he watched. Mineta Minoru stared at Chi Feng bitterly. This pervert started to look at Yaoyorozu Momo again. He was so angry, but he couldn't beat the opponent again. He could only curse Chi Feng for being hated by Yaoyorozu Momo. It's almost here. Give me a break. Aizawa Shota couldn't bear to look directly. Everyone was quiet. Finally arriving at the station, Chi Feng got out of the car in a sense of anxiety. The villain alliance is coming soon, and the enemy will arrive on the battlefield in 10 minutes. Classmates, I have been waiting for you for a long time. Wow, it's Space Heroes, 13, I actually saw it here, everyone said excitedly. Heroes of a very gentleman who performed extremely well at the disaster rescue scene, Space Heroes, 13. I like the number 13 very much. Uraraka Ochako covered his face. Chi Feng actually wanted to talk to Aizawa Shota about villain, but he was afraid that he would be misunderstood as a spy. After all, Kurogiri was sent over, and he now says that it is unfounded and easily suspected. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. Forget it, let's go with the flow. Chi Feng thought, since he is here, the natural battle will be resolved faster, maybe the heroes will end without coming to the fight. After all Might can deal with Nomu, and he can deal with Shigaraki Tamura. Let's go in quickly. Number 13 pointed to the training ground and said, please. The venue is very large. Chi Feng felt the magnificence in this real environment, and the central area is very wide, which is divided into several areas, all of which are too big. It's amazing. Is this USJ? Everyone exclaimed. Flood accidents, earth and sand disasters, fires, storms, and so on. Number 13 stretched out her arms. This is an exercise field created by me that imagines all accidents and disasters. Its name is Simulated Disaster Accident Site, abbreviated as USJ. On the 13th, where's All Might? Aizawa Shota came to her with hands in her pockets. Didn't we say we would meet here? Senior, this. Number 13 said embarrassingly. It seems that he has used his ability to the limit of his activity on the way to work, and is now resting in the lounge. Sorry, I should be able to show up a little when you were about to end. All Might wiped his sweat in the lounge and said, I'm really sorry. Aizawa Shota said nonchalantly, this approach is too unreasonable, hello. But this is also just in case. Mrs. Aizawa knows that someone must be watching All Might, so that's fine. No way, let's start. As everyone knows, my quirk is a black hole, which can be sucked in and crushed by anything. Number 13 explained his quirk. It is because of this quirk that rescues can be carried out in any disaster, right? Midoriya obviously knows number 13, but he has made a lot of notes, including records of heroes of all sizes. Yes, but this force can easily kill Pakistani people. Number 13 multifaceted analysis. After all, quirks can benefit society, so naturally there are quirks that will harm society. I think among the students, some people have quirks it's the same. At this time, some people looked at Chi Feng, and Chi Feng pretended to be unaware. He didn't carry the pot, but asked Shoto Todoroki and Bakugo to carry it. Our superhuman society, at first glance, was established by strictly controlling the use of quirk, with qualifications. However, as long as one wrong step is taken, people can be easily killed. We all have such an extreme the quirk, please keep this in mind. I want to pass Teacher Aizawa's physical fitness test. You already know the possibilities of your own strength. Through All Might's combat training, I have truly experienced how dangerous your own power is when dealing with others. In this class, I want you to change your mood and learn how to use your quirk to save others. Your power does not exist to hurt others, but to save others. I hope you can realize this after this class. On the 13th, he said a lot of truth in one breath, and it also inspired them to think about their quirk, and Midoriya would have small stars in his eyes. At this moment, Chi Feng suddenly glanced, and the villain alliance is here. The bright lights suddenly dimmed, and even the fountain in the center stopped supplying water. Then, in the eyes of everyone, a purple-black whirlpool suddenly appeared above the pool, and Kurogiri appeared. Gather together, don't move. Aizawa Shota discovered the anomaly for the first time. On the 13th, you protect the students. What's that? At this moment, the students discovered that a person with a hand on his face had walked out of the purple-black mist like an abyss. He was dressed very strangely, a rotten atmosphere, followed by all kinds of weird shapes. The guys showed up, and Kirishima Eijiro thought it was arranged by the school. Is it the same as when the entrance exams did not remind me to start the routine? Shigaraki Tamura stood still, looking at the students on the high platform, but found no sign of All Might. Don't move. Aizawa Shota warned, and at the same time put on goggles, which are his standard equipment in combat. Those are all villain. Everyone couldn't believe it. How could villain suddenly appear here? What is going on? Could it be planned for a long time? Standing in the crowd, Chi Feng seemed a little calm. In Kurogiri, villain kept coming over, looking strange and all kinds of things. At this moment, Chi Feng felt something was wrong. this villain seemed to be much more than the original. At this moment, Nomu collapsed, and behind Nomu, two different Nomu came across. How could this happen? Chi Feng's expression suddenly changed. 3 Nomu. Chapter 31 Villain Alliance, The Gun of Thunder. Number 13. Is there an eraser head? Kurogiri appeared in real form, and said with some confusion. According to the teacher's curriculum schedule one got a few days ago, All Might should be here today. Surely this group of guys did a good thing the other day. Aizawa Shota took a few steps forward, preparing to confront the enemy.
Where is it? Shigaraki Tamura suddenly became agitated. It's rare that I brought so many guys here specially. Even Nomu brought 3 of them. All Might. A symbol of peace, but not present.
Is he going to show up as long as you kill the group of kids? Shigaraki Tamura looked at the people in Heroes Class A, while Aizawa Shota stood in front of the students, white bandages fluttering, and a sense of solemnity spread instantly. What exactly are the professional heroes fighting against, and what they are confronting with, that is, very strong malice? Looking at the densely packed villain under the steps, Chi Feng's expression became a little stern. According to the normal direction, Shigaraki Tamura and Kurogiri came with a Nomu. However, something changed and 2 more Nomu came. Chi Feng carefully observed the other 2 Nomu. They are all different. One has wings on the back and looks very slender and thin. The other has green skin and 4 hands, almost the same size as the original black one. But even if there is a change, Chi Feng will not give up. What if there are 2 more Nomus? With his current strength not matching the black Nomu, he should be fine. Even if he fights against Shigaraki Tamura, he is sure to be injured. Other side. Villain. Are they stupid? Kirishima Eijiro said in disbelief. It's too stupid to sneak into the heroes' school. No, Chi Feng said, turning his head to look at Kirishima Eijiro. They seem to be premeditated. They're definitely not brave, and the 5 guys standing still are the leaders of these people. They're very powerful. The whole class immediately cast their gazes forward. Sure enough, headed by the guy with a hand on his face, there was a group of Kurogiri erratic on the side, and there was a huge guy with his brain exposed, and the other 2 looked similar. 5-man is obviously the leader. What Chi Feng said is basically the same. Aizawa Shota is a little relieved. Except for the number 13 professional heroes, all the others are students. But there are also strong and weak points among students. The key to this battle is still in the hands of the students. If they don't save themselves, no one can save them. He can resist a part of villain, but it is unrealistic and impossible to clean up everything. In this case, only more powerful students can share the pressure. Chi Feng is undoubtedly the best choice. In addition to Chi Feng, students such as Shoto Todoroki, Bakugo Katsuki, Tokiyami Fumikage, Yayorozu Momo, etc. are all able to protect themselves. As long as you don't face the leader of villain directly, there shouldn't be any big problems, but these villains seem to be too many, and Aizawa Shota has a headache thinking about it. Teacher, where are the sensors that inform the intruder? Yayorozu Momo stepped forward and asked anxiously. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. Of course there is. Number 13 replied. I don't know if they only show up here, or the whole school. Although in danger, Shoto Todoroki still said calmly. Anyway, since a sensor does not respond, it means that there should be some of them. Have the Quirk in this area. I chose this isolated space far away from the school building, and I know the time when the class comes here for class. Although it's ridiculous, they are not stupid. This is an extremely well-planned surprise attack for a certain purpose. Shoto Todoroki's eyes gathered on Shigaraki Tamura. This man is definitely the head. On the 13th, start evacuation and try to contact the school. Aizawa Shota walked down the steps and said as he walked, those villain took the countermeasures to paralyze the sensor into consideration. It may be the guy from the radio system who is interfering. Sangming, you should also try to contact with Quirk. Aizawa Shota stopped, turned his head and said to Kaminari Denki. Yes. Kaminari Denki didn't dare to neglect, and immediately followed suit. Midoriya Izuku worriedly stepped forward and said, where is the teacher? Do you plan to fight alone? That amount, no matter how many Quirks are eliminated, it is useless. The battle method of Eraser Head is to eliminate the villain Quirk and then capture, in a frontal battle. If you have only one skill, you can't be a heroes. Aizawa Shota said calmly, I'll leave it to you, number 13. After speaking, Aizawa Shota jumped straight down the steps and attacked villain. Chi Feng looked at the distance under the steps, took out the Ultraman mask from his clothes with his left hand and put it on his face. Mr. Chi Feng. Iida Tenya was taken aback. Chi Feng actually put on Tiga Ultraman's mask at this moment. What is this going to do?
Following Iida Tenya's surprise, everyone looked at Chi Feng. This behavior was indeed weird. It seemed that he didn't want to be recognized by anyone.
In other words, what kind of mask is not good, and I actually chose a second-rate mask like Tiga Ultraman. But don't say, Chi Feng looks pretty handsome in wearing. Are you going to take a shot? Shoto Todoroki's gaze narrowed, and he guessed Chi Feng's behavior. Look at the gun. Chi Feng's voice fell, with a picture in his right hand. A blue spear appeared in the thunder and lightning. Then he squeezed it sharply. The body arched and shot towards Shigaraki Tamura, Thunder Spear.
In an instant, the spear of thunder broke through and shot towards Shigaraki Tamura.
The Thunder Spear is a product that Chi Feng has only recently imagined. It is a skill imagined based on Zeus's ability. As long as Chi Feng is willing, as long as the level of Thor's return is higher, he can change any form of Thunder Quirk at will.
This is the super quirk, invincible. The moment Chi Feng projected the Thunder Spear, Shigaraki Tamura and Kurogiri noticed.
Shigaraki Tamura's eyes widened a bit and muttered to himself, unexpectedly. Ua high school kids have this kind of quirk. It seems that this trip is right, All Might is not there, then kill everyone. The people in the villain alliance below reacted slowly, but still saw a blue light flashing towards Shigaraki Tamura. Aizawa Shoto was a little surprised, and then laughed at the corner of his mouth. The students in this class of heroes Class A are really bold and strong. Nomu. Shigaraki Tamura said lightly, seeming not to care that the shiny object was shooting at him. Nomu received Shigaraki Tamura's will, and he blocked him with his hands together in the air, just hitting the Thunder Spear. The lightning burst, and the ejection on Nomu's body seemed to have no response, as if scratching, itchy. Sure enough. As Chi Feng expected, he is still a bit too tender to deal with this black Nomu. He didn't want to kill Shigaraki Tamura because he knew he couldn't kill him now. I just want to see the gap between myself and Nomu. Now it seems that the gap is a bit big. Chapter 32 Thunder Concussion.
Advertise here. But Chi Feng's move gave the classmates great encouragement. At this moment, Chi Feng wears a Tiga Ultraman mask, a dark blue combat uniform, and his waist is straight, so handsome.
Bakugo Katsuki was also surprised. This Chi Feng actually shot directly, and put a full score in front of him? Thinking of this, Bakugo Katsuki was about to take action, but was interrupted on the 13th. Students, please don't take action now. Villain's strength and strategy are unknown. My duty is to protect you. This classmate, please stand. On the 13th, there is no objection or approval to Chi Feng's move, but at the moment, he can no longer make such a rash move. Judging from the quirk skills that Chi Feng just used, it is indeed very strong, but it seems that it is not for the monster-like villain. Cause any threat. It can be seen how strong villain is. Senior Aizawa may not be easy this time. Let's start the shooting team. Although the soldiers of the villain alliance were amazed by Chi Feng's shots, they're the incarnation of evil. How can they be fooled by this little bug? Isn't the intelligence saying that there are only 13 in All Might? Who is he? A villain alliance member looked at Aizawa Shoto with some mockery. I don't know, but a person rushed from the front, a complete idiot. Quirk, start. Aizawa Shoto's eyes stared, and the quirk was lost in the red light. The white bandage swept over and threw the three of them away. Idiot, that guy is the eraser head, who can eliminate the quirk just by looking at it. Eliminate. A four-handed villain alliance soldier with a black hood on his head rushed towards Aizawa Shoto. Can alien quirks like ours also be eliminated? No, this can't be done. After Aizawa Shoto dodges the opponent's attack, he hit it in the face with a punch. However, against guys like you, according to statistics, melee methods are often more effective, so, I am also ready to countermeasures in this regard. The hand-to-hand combat is also very strong. In addition, he covered his eyes with goggles. It is impossible to see whose quirk he has eliminated. Shigaraki Tamura analyzed. This has led to a great cooperation in group battles. Discount. That's it, it's really annoying, professional heroes. Shigaraki Tamura began to grasp his chin with his fingers. With this mob, I can't compete with it. At this moment, the Class A of heroes is also running towards the exit. Don't try to escape. Kurogiri rose directly from the ground. On the other hand, Aizawa Shoto cannot be cloned and cannot support the students. When we first met, we are the Villain Alliance. Please forgive me for taking the liberty of waiting. This time we came to visit Heroes Base Camp UA High School to completely wipe out the symbol of peace, All Might. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. Kurogiri said plainly with contempt. Originally All Might should have appeared here, but did something happen midway? Well, it has nothing to do with me. My task is this. Kurogiri sprayed his arms apart and started to do it. Chi Feng saw Bakugo Katsuki and Kirishima Ejiro rushing up, and he immediately made a move. A thunderball formed from the palm of his hand and suddenly threw it at Kurogiri. At the same time, the attacks of Kirishima Ejiro and Bakugo Katsuki also arrived. The explosion sounded and a cloud of black smoke filled it. No one could see what was going on inside. Kurogiri of the Villain Alliance is still a cultural person, but what you said is nonsense in our eyes. Chi Feng smiled. He knows Kurogiri's weakness. That thunderball is directed towards the opponent's weakness. I don't believe Kurogiri cannot get hurt. It's incredible. The black smoke dissipated and Kurogiri appeared. His gaze turned to Chi Feng, only to find that the other party was wearing Tiga Ultraman's mask and he couldn't see his face. It was this kid who injured him just now. Although it was not very serious, it was really uncomfortable. The thunderball seemed to have a paralyzing effect. Now his ribs are still a bit tingling. You are fine. I will take care of you a lot. Kurogiri's yellow eyes exuded a strange light, and suddenly its figure soared. The black air current wrapped the students inside, only Iida on the side. Tenya and others escaped. Chi Feng didn't stop Kurogiri from doing it. Here he can't show his full strength, and if he is dispersed, he can show his skills. Chi Feng couldn't see anything in the pitch black space, and he didn't know how long it had passed before his eyes suddenly lit up, and the yellow sand rushing toward him hit Chi Feng's body. After Chi Feng landed and looked around, it seemed to be a desert site. There were still some dilapidated buildings around Chen Heng. The wind blew from time to time and brought yellow sand to the surrounding area. Chi Feng looked around, but he didn't see the classmates of Heroes Class A. He seemed to be the only one here. At this time, some people came out from under the desert, and a group of people came out from behind the dilapidated building. All of them belonged to the Villain Alliance. Look at it. This kid still wears the mask of Ultraman Tiga. It's really a childhood. One villain laughed and teased, and the others began to laugh. Oh, it's so pitiful, you're here alone, but no one will save you. Why do you talk so much nonsense with him? Just clean it up. We are still waiting for us to help. Don't worry, let's have fun with this kid. Chi Feng looked at these people like a fool. There are nearly 40 villains from the Villain Alliance in this desert area, which can be said to be very scary. According to Chi Feng's previous estimates, there are more than 200 soldiers from the Villain Alliance this time, but less than 300. He is equal to about 1/5 of villain here, but this is good, it must be Kurogiri's. Meaning, otherwise it's impossible to get him here alone, and there are so many villain. Have you finished? Chi Feng said lightly. Villain Alliance's abacus today is wrong. Although 2 Nomus have been added, it still cannot change the situation. When these Villain Alliance people heard Chi Feng talking to himself, they didn't understand. With so many people here, isn't the other party afraid at all? Is this still a child? Pack him. Some villain who couldn't understand Chi Feng said, and 3 people walked towards Chi Feng. Today, let you see and see the true fear. Chi Feng suddenly roared, and Thor's return was fully aroused, and his body was suddenly surrounded by lightning, like a god descending from the earth. What's the matter? The people at Villain Alliance were surprised. Chi Feng's behavior immediately made them feel bad. Why is this guy's quirk so strange? The 3 guys who were going to rush up to clean up Chi Feng were stunned, and now they are not moving forward, nor are they moving back. Thunder shock, maximize. Chi Feng yelled, and suddenly pressed his hands towards the yellow sand on the ground. The yellow sand instantly began to tremble, and the thunder light burst in a radius of 100 meters, arbitrarily vertical and horizontal. What's going on? He is really a student. All the people of the Villain Alliance in the desert were attacked indiscriminately, screaming one after another, and the sound of howling ghosts and wolves even spread throughout the training ground. Chapter 33 3000 Thunders, Troubles and Winds. Shigaraki Tamura looked at the source of the sound and frowned slightly. Kurogiri, go see what's going on. Want to go? Aizawa Shota broke through the crowd and directly wrapped a white bandage around Kurogiri. Kurogiri smiled, disappearing without a trace. It's disgusting to send Quirk. Aizawa Shota tweeted, and focused on Shigaraki Tamura. This guy could feel threatened to him. What's the matter with this voice? Bakugo Katsuki looked towards the distant sky. The source of the sound is from the Villain Alliance, and there are a large number of people. Teacher Aizawa has no group attack skills. Teacher number 13 wants to protect the remaining classmates, and its black hole attack is unlikely to make villain scream so weird. Then, this scream must have been made by some of the classmates. Thinking of this, Bakugo Katsuki already knew who it was. Chi Feng. Damn it. Lousy can't fall behind either. Bakugo Katsuki, suddenly violent, touched a villain's face, an explosion sounded. This villain's face is no different from the African black. Standing on top of the yellow sand, Chi Feng panted slightly. The tricks released just now were a bit more expensive. After all, it was a group attack trick. At this moment, almost all of the 40 people in the desert area were lying on the ground. Everyone was scorched to varying degrees, and some of them were even dead. Although Chi Feng is not a professional hero, killing will be punished, but he knows that the school will be responsible for today's affairs, and he does not need to hide any strength. He had hidden his strength before and didn't want to be discovered by the people of Villain Alliance, because he still couldn't protect himself and he hadn't reached that level. But now it's different. Both his Thor's return and air manipulation have reached LV3, and he is still on the 2nd level of Chi training. Basically, he has the means to protect himself. If he wants to go, few people can lead him too much in speed at the moment, and he can't stop it. Chi Feng originally planned to kill these guys. He is not a soft-hearted person. These villains should have been damned. Although he has acted as the position of justice, he is the adjudicator at this moment. A few of the slightly stronger villains stood up. These people looked at Chi Feng with fear in their eyes. They had never seen a student as strong as him. He is simply a freak, and maybe even professional heroes may not be as good as him. At this time, Kurogiri appeared out of thin air. When he saw that they were all from their Villain Alliance lying on the ground, his expression couldn't help changing, and he looked at Chi Feng. You did this? Kurogiri asked. You don't know what you are doing yourself? Is there anyone else here? Chi Feng grinned. Kurogiri has a powerful teleportation function, but it is slightly lacking in actual combat, but Kurogiri cannot be underestimated. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. Chi Feng remembers that Kurogiri can send someone's attack into the dimension, and then suddenly appear in front of you, causing him to be hit by his own attack even if he can't hide. Very good. Kurogiri smirked. A high school really collects heroes from all over the world. If you grow up, it is indeed a big threat to the future Villain Alliance. Do you think you can get rid of me? Chi Feng asked back. I don't have time to quarrel with you, it will clean up you. Kurogiri laughed, the teleport function was turned on, and the winged Nomu was released, and he disappeared. Finally came a tricky thing. Chi Feng cheered up, he didn't know what the characteristics of this Nomu were, speed, strength, or something else. Kurogiri is not worried that Nomu will kill Chi Feng. Although this Nomu is not as powerful as the black Nomu, it is definitely not something students can deal with. Chi Feng raised his hand to knock down those villain who had stood up, and then focused on facing Nomu. Nomu seemed to have received the order and fluttered his wings and whizzed towards Chi Feng. What a fast speed! Chi Feng exclaimed. Nomu's speed broke out in an instant, as fast as lightning. But why didn't he have lightning speed? Surrounded by thunder and lightning, Chi Feng once again fully roused Thor's return. After avoiding Nomu's first attack, Chi Feng stepped on the yellow sand and came behind Nomu. Then it hit its back with a punch, the air is shaking. With a click, the surrounding air seemed to be evacuated in an instant, and Nomu seemed to have been smashed into a cavity by a sledgehammer, and flew directly into the ruins. As soon as Chi Feng opened his feet, he formed a horse step, with his right hand on the top and left hand on the bottom, facing the ruins where Nomu was located. Air compression, maximize. Boom. The power visible to the naked eye dispersed, the ruins were instantly squashed like a biscuit, and the smoke filled the sky. Chi Feng gasped for breath. Today, he is considered to have shown his strength. He is indeed very tired. Fortunately, Chi Feng has the strength of the second level of Chi training, and his physical strength is not consumed too quickly, but there is not much left. Nomu in the ruins looks a little thin and weak, should he not have the ability to continue fighting? Boom. Chi Feng suddenly vomited a mouthful of blood, looking at Nomu with his head on his head in disbelief. This guy still has such a strong power. Nomu shot out directly from the ruins, and immediately knocked Chi Feng into the air. Chi Feng fell on the yellow sand and felt the turbulence in his stomach, he was injured. Nomu's eyes are absent, and he can't feel the pain, just like a machine standing there looking at Chi Feng, seeming to launch the next attack at any time. It seems that I still have to use that. Chi Feng took out the Quirk supplement from the system warehouse and took a sip. An unclear warm current flowed through his body. After only a few breaths, Chi Feng was injured just now. Disappeared, and both quirks have returned to their peak state. Die. Chi Feng said faintly. After standing up, he stood up with thunder and lightning in his right hand and air in his left hand. The two suddenly merged, and he shouted abruptly. 3,000 thunder and lightning trouble wind. I saw the strong thunder light between Chi Feng's hands swept towards Nomu under the air envelope, and a huge tornado formed in an instant. The thunder light raged in the tornado, which looked like a thunderstorm. Nomu got tired and suffered a crit in the thunder and lightning trouble wind, and his wings were also shattered. After Huang Sha was taken in, Chi Feng couldn't see what happened to Nomu inside. At this moment, he was tired again. This trick it should be the strongest he has used so far. Chi Feng knew that even if he made Nomu unable to breathe, he wouldn't be able to kill him. Nomu doesn't seem to have to breathe. The body structure is different from that of human beings, and the transformed ones are already like machines. When the thunderstorm appeared, Kurogiri looked in that direction, his face changed. Didn't he arrange for Nomu to clean up the kid there? How could such a change happen? Kurogiri, what's the matter? Shigaraki Tamura became a little irritated, and he explained why this situation always appeared in that area. I'll check it out. Kurogiri wanted to leave after speaking, but Shigaraki Tamura said, forget it, kill this troublesome teacher first. Chapter 34. Almost all the Heroes Class A students in the exercise area were in a hard fight, but a few special students were relatively relaxed. It's embarrassing to be beaten like this by a child. Shoto Todoroki froze all villain, with a hint of flame in his eyes and said, cheer up, aren't you adults? Desert area. Chi Feng alone. Flooded areas, Asuisuyu, Mineta Minoru, and Midoriya Izuku. Mudslide area. Shoto Todoroki alone. Collapse area. Kirishima Eijiro and Bakugo Katsuki. Mountain area. Kaminari Denki, Yayorozu Momo, 3 people. Fire area. Ojiro Mashirao alone. Stormy area. Tokiyami Fumikage and Kota Koji. Mr. Shoji, where are the other students? Are you still there? Can you confirm it? Iida Tenya said anxiously, as if he was caught in a deep water. Although they are scattered, they are still in this facility. Mezzo Shoji used the replica wrist to replicate the ears and was able to detect the surrounding movement. His words made everyone a little relieved. As long as it is in the facility, it is easy to handle. Afraid of being transported to some messy place, there is no life guarantee. Damn it, the physical attack is invalid, and it can be teleported. This is really the trickiest quirk. Hello? Iida Tenya said helplessly. Squad leader. At this time, the 13th suddenly called. Yes. Iida Tenya Kaido immediately. Give you a task. Please rush to the school and report the incident. The alarm did not ring and the phone was outside the service area. The alarm was infrared. Senior. No, Eraserhead is here. Next, eliminate their quirks one by one, but there is still no response. I'm afraid someone on the other side has a quirk that can interfere, and they will hide him as soon as they come up. In this way, instead of taking the time to find him out, it is better for you to run back and report it faster. An accurate analysis on the 13th. Dao, they need to compete against each other. However, leaving the classmates aside, as the class leader is really. Go ahead, emergency exit. Sato Rikido usually doesn't speak much, and can't calm down at this time. As long as you rush outside, there will be a sirens, so these guys just dare to make trouble here, don't they? As long as you rush out, they won't dare to chase them. Use your feet to shake off the fog. Shiro Honta is ready to fight, and now escorting Iida Tenya out of here is the most important thing. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. To save, please use your quirk. It was announced on the 13th that students can use the quirk. It is currently in a special environment. Uraraka Ochako said. Like the canteen before, I am very good at supporting me, and I can do it well, please, squad leader. Although you don't have any means, how can anyone be so stupid to discuss countermeasures in front of villain? Kurogiri sneered. These students take themselves too seriously, and they are so careless before they become professional heroes. It is extremely ignorant. Kurogiri atomized himself and separated 6 or 7 black mists and rushed towards everyone. He wouldn't let these students go out to confess the news. All this must follow Shigaraki Tamura's will and the one behind him. Of course it's okay to be exposed. Okay. Number 13 didn't care. He raised his right hand and opened the finger cover. Suddenly, a suction was generated in the dark cavity. Black hole. The mist emitted by Kurogiri was immediately absorbed by the black hole on the 13th, and it was quickly absorbed like a vacuum cleaner. Chi Feng panted heavily, and the thunder and lightning storm in the sky stopped at this moment. Pattern. Nomu fell to the ground and died completely. Chi Feng heaved a sigh of relief and finally killed this guy. If there is no quirk supplement, this Nomu might not be able to kill himself and will be in danger. It seems that I still look up to myself. Chi Feng laughed to himself. An early Nomu can make him like this. What about the black one? Really only Uncle O can deal with it. Chi Feng took a short rest, recovered some strength, and rushed to the exit. He has solved 1 Nomu, and 2 others. The black one is against Aizawa Shota in the central area, and the other one is green. I don't know. Where is it? He now has to support number 13 and his classmates. Since he is here, he can't change nothing. At least he must save number 13 and Aizawa Shota. Debris flow area. After breaking up, do you kill them one by one? Shoto Todoroki looked at these guys who were frozen by him indifferently, although this is not very pleasant, but you guys, no matter how you look at them, they're just quirks. Waste. This kid, he can move. Is he really just a kid? Okay. It hurts. The villains kept wailing. Is their group the worst luck? As soon as the whole army was wiped out, I thought it would be enough to deal with a kid and the others, but it turned out to be just GG after a face-to-face encounter. At this moment, the sudden change occurred. Shoto Todoroki's pupils widened, and a strong wind hit him behind him. He subconsciously hid to one side, but it seemed to be a little late. Ah! Shoto Todoroki's left arm was directly interrupted, and he hung loosely, falling on the ground with sweat on his forehead. This is the second time he experienced this pain today except for his mother's experience. The 4-handed green Nomu stopped, turned around and stared at Shoto Todoroki, then rushed forward again. Shoto Todoroki deserves to be an escort. He knows that the guy in front of him is very strong. If he doesn't act, he will end up with a dead end. After kicking his feet back, Shoto Todoroki slammed on the ground after avoiding the mortal punch, and an ice stream instantly wrapped around Nomu's body. Nomu was frozen solid, and his face was covered. Shoto Todoroki backed away quickly. He knew that villain couldn't be defeated so easily. The level of ice after he was injured was absolutely effective against that kind of punks. Sure enough, the next moment Nomu shattered the ice, moved his limbs, and stared at Shoto Todoroki with 2 dead eyes. What to do? Shoto Todoroki felt a bit tricky for the first time. Even when facing Chi Feng, he didn't feel that way. This villain was really too strong. Nomu moved and grabbed Shoto Todoroki's head directly. They all meant to kill, which was Shigaraki Tamura's meaning. At this moment, a thunder light lit up in the sky, and a pillar like thunder pillar fell from the sky, smashing Nomu into the ground. Pillar of thunder. Chi Feng fell from the sky and looked at Shoto Todoroki with a smile. Mr. Hong, you can't be in a daze at this time, it will be dead. Chi Feng. When Shoto Todoroki saw the thunder in the sky, he knew that it was Chi Feng coming. He suddenly felt relieved and relieved a lot. Chapter 35. Maybe this is a feeling of relying. Although Shoto Todoroki is not a person who can rely on others, sometimes his heart is inevitably too shackled and too heavy. He also needs to relax and he needs to be caring. At this moment, he felt that Chi Feng was like a hero's, blocking him. This feeling was strange, but very real. Thanks a lot. Shoto Todoroki is still not good at expressing. After all, he is not very familiar with Chi Feng, but the relationship is good. It can be said that he doesn't know each other. What are you polite with me? Chi Feng smiled, then said with a straight face. How are you? Shoto Todoroki glanced at his left arm, gritted his teeth and said, my hand is useless, and it is impossible to use it again until I go back to school. This guy is very strong. Now my strength is reduced by half. I may not help you. Very busy. Chi Feng didn't hesitate, took out the red quirk supplement from his pocket, take a sip. Shoto Todoroki glanced at Chi Feng, wondering why he suddenly gave him something like this at this time. Wouldn't it hurt to take a sip? However, Shoto Todoroki believed Chi Feng and took a sip from the Quirk refill. The next moment he was shocked to find that his left arm began to feel sensation, and the recovery speed was very fast. He recovered after more than a dozen breaths. Such a valuable thing. Shoto Todoroki was interrupted by Chi Feng before he finished speaking. No matter how valuable it is vain. Okay, concentrate on dealing with villain. Save points plus 50, Shoto Todoroki, the saved person. Chi Feng smiled in his heart. Boom is still pretty cute. Roar. There was a roar from the ground, and Nomu rushed out. Chi Feng didn't know which Nomu was better than the Nomu he had dealt with before, but from the looks of it, the Nomu in front of him is obviously of a power type, which should be similar to the black Nomu. And the Nomu he had dealt with before was thin, with an advantage in speed, and his strength was average, otherwise the moment he was hit at the time would kill him. Shoto Todoroki nodded and returned the Quirk supplement to Chi Feng. He didn't know how many times this precious thing could be sucked. Maybe this one he sucked was the last one. Mr. Boom, I'm going to go. Chi Feng put his hands together and pulled out again. A azure blue thunderball appeared between his hands, and then raised with one hand to the sky, getting bigger and bigger. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. Shoto Todoroki saw that Chi Feng's trick takes time. He must fight for it. With his hands down, two extremely icy waves rushed towards Nomu. Nomu pushed forward with his four hands and broke Shoto Todoroki's two ice waves, but the next moment a bigger ice burst appeared, which directly froze Nomu and became a huge ice sculpture. Xiao Lei Ying. Chi Feng waved his right hand down, and the flashing thunderball in the sky like a truck quickly fell towards Nomu, who was frozen in the ice. He can only release such a big thunder. It takes time and physical strength to condense thunder and lightning. The concentration of Ying is very pure, and the power is double the usual skills. In front of Shoto Todoroki, he can only use Thunder Quirk. At most he can use air to control it when he is not paying attention. Nomu deserves to be a killing machine made. Shoto Todoroki's big ice burst was shattered by it. It watched the huge thunderball hit it and prepared to avoid it. But Chi Feng won't let it go, otherwise all this will be in vain. With a left and right grip, Nomu's feet are instantly pulled by a blast of air, unable to move. But Chi Feng is not comfortable. Nomu's strength is very strong. It resists Chi Feng's quirk. This is directly reflected in Chi Feng. At this moment, his breath is a bit disordered. Shoto Todoroki immediately noticed, "You still okay?" "I'm okay." Chi Feng stared at Nomu and said, "This is not the strongest yet. The strongest is the black Nomu. At Mr. Aizawa, we must shorten the time." Xiao Liying landed on Nomu's body, and a huge thunderlight flashed out, illuminating this area. Shoto Todoroki covered his eyes with his arm, and he couldn't look directly at this light. Chi Feng stared at Nomu motionlessly. He knew that Xiao Liying alone could not kill it. Just taking this opportunity, Shoto Todoroki couldn't open his eyes. Suddenly, his hands burst into blue veins, and his feet moved to resist Xiao Lei. In front of Nomu, who was greeted, the horse stepped and punched Nomu's chest with double punches, using all his strength. The air is shocked and crushed to the maximum. The surrounding air was pumped, and there was a popping sound. Shoto Todoroki heard the sound but couldn't open his eyes to investigate. He didn't know what was going on. Nomu's upper body sank in an instant, and all his internal organs were shattered. Xiao Liying exploded and blasted his head into a smash. Chi Feng also knelt on the ground at this time and collapsed. The thunder light dissipated. Shoto Todoroki opened his eyes and looked. Chi Feng knelt on the ground, while Nomu was lying in front of him. His head no longer knew where it was going, and his upper body seemed to be hollowed out and sunken, dead. Can't die anymore.
Shoto Todoroki was shocked. Chi Feng did all this by himself. He only assisted. It was Chi Feng, not him, who really killed Nomu.
At this moment Shoto Todoroki realized that Chi Feng is really better than him. This method is not like a student can do it. Can professional heroes do it? Maybe some of the professional heroes of the heroes firm are not as strong as Chi Feng. He is only a student, but he is better than the professional heroes. How did he improve his abilities? Can you still move? Shoto Todoroki came to Chi Feng and asked with concern. After all, Chi Feng is his lifesaver. If Chi Feng doesn't come, this Nomu can't be beaten. And will die here. I need to take a break. You help me pay attention to my surroundings. Chi Feng sat cross-legged after speaking, and began to absorb the aura from the surroundings to recover his body. As long as the stamina is restored, the quirk will also be restored, but it will be slower. Shoto Todoroki set up an ice wall around him to prevent a sneak attack. He also sat down to recover his strength. The previous big ice burst also consumed a lot of his strength and needed to recover. It's just that he thinks Chi Feng is a little strange. Why cross-legged and closed his eyes seems like some scenes he saw in the movie, but obviously this is impossible. There is no such kind of person in the movie in this world. The quirk is the kingly way. Only by upgrading the quirk can all difficulties be dealt with. Perhaps in time, Chi Feng will be able to become an outstanding professional heroes, and it is not impossible even to be the president of a heroes firm. Thinking of this, Shoto Todoroki secretly made up his mind that he must work hard. Chi Feng is now what he wants to chase. Only Chi Feng's strength can be recognized by him, and it can be regarded as the real heroes. Chapter 36. 10 minutes later, Chi Feng stood up. He just recovered a little bit of energy and could keep moving, but it was impossible to shoot like the previous one, unless he used up the last quirk supplement. What should I do now? Shoto Todoroki rarely consulted Chi Feng's opinion. He was originally a maverick, but now Chi Feng is here. He wants to hear Chi Feng's opinion. It's very simple. First go to support teacher number 13, and then find a way to help teacher Aizawa share the pressure. After all, the black Nomu is much stronger than this. Chi Feng looked into the distance, and the surrounding movement was not small. The students seemed to be caught up in a hard fight. I remember there is another Nomu that hasn't been solved. That's dead. Chi Feng smiled and looked at Shoto Todoroki. Did you see the storm before? Shoto Todoroki's face changed. You mean you formed the storm? Think about it and feel wrong. Chi Feng's quirk is a thunder quirk. Where does the thunder and lightning come from the storm? How can a storm be formed? Shoto Todoroki couldn't figure out this. He didn't even think about the double quirk. He himself is a double quirk, but it doesn't mean that others are the same as him. Chi Feng didn't answer, but Shoto Todoroki knew he had acquiesced. The winged Nomu died in Chi Feng's hands, and he knew it from the thunder and lightning storm. It seems that he still looks down on Chi Feng. 23 seconds. Shigaraki Tamura finally took action. He couldn't wait. There seemed to be a lot of changes happening today. Both of his Nomu seemed to be dead, but right now he couldn't confirm who killed him. Nomu. These other two Nomu are the products that he brought out in advance. Although the strength is not as strong as this black Nomu, they are definitely not the ordinary professional heroes can deal with, but these two Nomu died in the facility. Then, it means that the students are doing good things. There are quirks and methods comparable to professional heroes in these stinky brats. Even if All Might doesn't come today, he will kill these troublesome brats so as not to hinder the villain alliances will in the future. 20 seconds. Shigaraki Tamura kept chanting numbers and came to Aizawa Shota. Aizawa Shota hit Shigaraki Tamura's stomach with an elbow, but was blocked by the opponent's hand. Although you are running around all the time, it is somewhat difficult to tell, but there is indeed a moment when your hair hangs down, which means the end of your action, and the interval becomes shorter and shorter. Shigaraki Tamura opened wide the eyes said, "Don't be too aggressive, eraser head." Aizawa Shota's elbow was scrapped by Shigaraki Tamura. Midoriya was worried but to no avail. With his current strength, he could not fight villain at all, unless he used 100% of his power, but in case villain escaped, or blocked it, then he became a burden to teacher Aizawa. Not only Midoriya is anxious, but Mineta Minoru and Asui Suyu are anxious, but they can't help it. Their quirks are only auxiliary types, and their attack performance is currently very weak, so they can't help much. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. In this situation, Aizawa Shota still has to face many villains, and without one-hand's attack, the ability will be greatly reduced. Your quirk is not suitable for long-term battles with multiple people, right? Shigaraki Tamura seemed to see through Aizawa Shota's weakness at a glance. Isn't it completely different from what you usually do at work? What you are good at is after all just a short-term decisive battle under a surprise attack, right? Shigaraki Tamura analyzed like a Tarsus maggot. Even so, you still charge from the front. Is this to make the students feel at ease? Aizawa Shota knew that he was in a bad situation now, and his right elbow could hardly move, involving the entire joint. In order not to put pressure on the students, Aizawa Shota continued to move, and stared at Shigaraki Tamura out of breath after clearing up a few villains. This guy is the main messenger of this battle and is quite important. It's so handsome. So handsome. Shigaraki Tamura opened her hands and laughed. But then again, heroes. Before Shigaraki Tamura's words were finished, Aizawa Shota felt something was wrong and turned to look. A huge black villain was standing behind him. This should be the Nomu that villain said before. The boss is not me. As soon as Shigaraki Tamura's voice fell, Nomu raised his hand and grabbed Aizawa Shota's head. When Aizawa Shota didn't respond, she watched the other's giant hand grabbing towards her. Is she going to die here? The gun of thunder. A loud roar came from a distance, followed by azure blue light passing by, hitting Nomu's hand, giving Aizawa Shota time to react, and quickly avoided. At this time, Chi Feng and Shoto Todoroki also arrived. Chi Feng, bang! Midoriya stood up excitedly and walked towards Chi Feng and Shoto Todoroki. At this moment, he actually felt safe. Is it because Chi Feng and Hong are here? He couldn't tell, but he just felt very stable in his heart. Student Chi Feng, thank you. Aizawa Shota stood weakly beside Chi Feng. As a teacher, he was supposed to protect the students, but today he was protected by the students. At this moment, the situation of the battle has been changed imperceptibly. Is it you again? Shigaraki Tamura scratched his chin, a little annoyed. My two Nomu are dead. Does it have anything to do with you? Two Nomu. Midoriya and others were taken aback, then looked at the black Nomu and instantly understood. But who can kill this suspected boss? It is Chi Feng.
Shoto Todoroki stood aside and didn't speak. Only he knew who killed Nomu. It was Chi Feng in front of him. One of them was killed under his nose, shocking and inexplicable.
Well, who knows? Chi Feng spread his hands and did not admit or deny. Shigaraki Tamura stared at Chi Feng for a while, and then suddenly opened his eyes and laughed. Everyone is like this. Now even a little ghost dared to talk to me like this. It seems that Villain Alliance is going to be with you people. In his eyes, it became deeply rooted. Nomu, kill that kid. Shigaraki Tamura gave orders to Nomu. He kept holding his fingers on his chin, and soon red marks were made. Student Chi Feng, you take Midoriya with them and leave it to me here. Aizawa Shota said weakly, but still using Quirk, her hair fluttered. Chi Feng put his left hand on Aizawa Shota's shoulder and said, Mr. Aizawa, this Nomu is useless to eliminate with Quirk. Let me do it. I want to wait for Mr. Iida to escape from the facility. Ms. All Might will be here soon. When Midoriya heard the words All Might, the hope in his eyes became brighter, but Aizawa Shota looked back at Chi Feng suspiciously. How do you know that my Quirk is useless? It's the same if you eliminate the Quirk. It has achieved such strength purely by the physical body. A few more quirks are just stronger, so let's wait for Teacher All Might to come. Chi Feng released his hand. After that, Thor's return was fully aroused. Chapter 37. Who are you? Shigaraki Tamura stared at Chi Feng. Why do you know the quirk and characteristics of this Nomu? My guess. Shigaraki Tamura. Hell if you can guess it. Shigaraki Tamura laughed furiously. Nomu, kill him. Chi Feng did not hesitate, took out the quirk supplement from his pocket and used it up for the last time. At the same time, Nomu's attack also arrived instantly. Shoto Todoroki and Aizawa Shota shot at the same time. The former froze Nomu's feet and the latter wrapped Nomu's hands. Chi Feng jumped and came to Nomu's back with his hands pressed behind it. Thunder light came on. Thunder is shaking. Nomu's back shook in an instant, and Lei Guangfan was very frightening. Don't bother, it's not afraid of thunder and lightning. Shigaraki Tamura scratched his chin and said, you are lazy to survive, but you are so unbearable in front of it. Experience despair. Nomu shook his whole body, and instantly shattered the ice on his feet, and then threw Aizawa Shota out. Chi Feng leapt quickly, but it was still a step too late. Nomu's speed was very fast, and a punch was already on Chi Feng's body. Chi Feng flew out a distance of tens of meters in an instant, spitting out a mouthful of blood. If he hadn't displayed the air barrier, he might have died with this punch. Chi Feng. Shoto Todoroki's face changed and he rushed towards Chi Feng. This punch of Nomu knocked Chi Feng so far. Chi Feng is likely to be life-threatening. You should take care of yourself first. Shigaraki Tamura narrowed his eyes, and Nomu rushed towards Shoto Todoroki, raised his hand and grabbed his head. Shoto Todoroki's unprecedented fighting spirit was inspired. He put his hands together and pushed forward suddenly. A big ice burst instantly appeared, freezing Nomu directly into a giant sculpture. Aizawa Shota is worthy of being a professional hero as a teacher. Although he is physically weak, he can still show the strength of Chong Chao. Under the weird pace, he will follow the white band to wrap Shigaraki Tamura around Shigaraki Tamura. Midoriya stared blankly at Chi Feng lying motionless on the ground. His eyes suddenly turned red. Could it be? Mr. Chi Feng is dead? He couldn't imagine that Chi Feng, who is usually outstanding, would be knocked down by a punch. This Nomu's punch seemed to contain infinite power, which he had only seen in All Might's body. Nomu is painless like a war machine. After breaking the ice blast again, he relentlessly kills Shoto Todoroki. Shigaraki Tamura is its will. Whoever he wants to die will die. Shoto Todoroki knew that he was not Nomu's opponent at all, but now it is a bit to delay a little time. After using the big ice burst again to freeze Nomu, he turned his head to look at Chi Feng lying on the ground. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. Chi Feng did not die, nor fainted, but was resting. He knew his current condition very well. He had 3 broken ribs. Although it was painful, he did not lose his combat effectiveness. At this moment, he also understood how naive his thoughts were. The Black Nomu was really not something he could contend with now. This kind of creature didn't know how to make it, and his power was so powerful. It can be said that except for All Might, basically none of the people present are opponents of this Black Nomu, let alone add Shigaraki Tamura and Kurogiri. Nomu broke free again. Shoto Todoroki was also a little weak. After all, his stamina was limited. It took too much to deal with Nomu, and he was tired of coping. Just when Nomu was about to catch Shoto Todoroki, Midoriya on the side finally broke out and rushed towards Nomu, tears flickering in his eyes, but more decisive. He knew that with this punch, his right hand would be abolished, but there is nothing more important than his friends and classmates. If he were to watch them die, he couldn't do it. Stop it for me. Midoriya accelerated suddenly, punching Nomu in the back, smash. Boom. There was a shock, and after Midoriya's impulse, he was pleasantly surprised to find that his right hand was not broken, which means that he hit a full-point punch. But the next moment his face looked ugly. Nomu seemed to have no scars on his back, the punch didn't work, and even villain didn't hurt him. What kind of villain is this? Midoriya's face turned pale. He felt that he was going to die and couldn't save everyone, and he couldn't save himself. Why is he so useless and can't control his strength? The deep self-blame could not disappear for a long time. Midoriya sat down weakly and faced the reality. Sometimes, it's not that the individual's strength is the strongest, nor that he is incompetent, but that the opponent is too strong. Midoriya turned his head in surprise. Chi Feng slowly stood up, straightened his waist. Then what should be done? Chi Feng surrounded his legs with thunder and lightning, and rushed towards Nomu after exerting his force. His hands were constantly changing, seeming to be brewing strong power.
It's very simple, we just need to be stronger. Chi Feng suddenly shouted, lightning-style lariat. With a flash of speed, under the extremely dense thunder and lightning, Nomu's waist was cut open unexpectedly, and the outflow of red liquid meant that it was injured.
It seems to be a bit worse. Chi Feng fell forward weakly. Midoriya jumped up and hugged Chi Feng quickly, and said with tears, Chi Feng, thank you. At this moment, Midoriya seemed to understand a lot of truths, and understood that the world is not peaceful after all. Villain is everywhere, and darkness is everywhere. Since you can't change the world, change yourself first.
When you have that ability, it is not too late to change the world.
When Shigaraki Tamura was busy coping with it, he saw Chi Feng making another move, but with a single blow, Nomu's extremely hard body was cut open in the waist. His pupils shrank. Shigaraki Tamura looked at Aizawa Shota. What's his name? Why, you are very interested in him. Aizawa Shota gasped and said, or, you are very afraid of his strength and potential. It's really annoying. Shigaraki Tamura ran towards Chi Feng after avoiding Aizawa Shota's attack. He must kill this kid, otherwise there will be endless troubles. Not good. When Aizawa Shota reacted, Shigaraki Tamura had already passed Chi Feng, and the white bandage swept away but was avoided by the opponent. It was too late. Disgusting guy, let Lousy deal with you. There was a loud roar. Bakugo Katsuki hurried towards this side, his hands turned from red to red, and there was a big explosion at Shigaraki Tamura.
As the smoke filled the dust, Midoriya held Chi Feng and jumped out of the danger zone and landed on the side of Aizawa Shota. Aizawa Shota glanced at Chi Feng, who seemed to be in a coma, and said to Midoriya, good job.
Everyone hinders me. Why? Is it because of hero's justice? Shigaraki Tamura walked out of the smoke and dust with his hands hanging down. His eyes swept around everyone. Ua High School does not need to exist, and the world does not need it. Heroes, everyone will soon understand that what we are doing is for everyone and for the world. Shigaraki Tamura, whose hands were covered with bloodline, suddenly burst into laughter. His smile was distorted and very permeating. It seemed that there was endless pain and sadness in his heart, and the black devil's will to tear him to pieces was burning. Chapter 38 Iida Tenya. The battle is almost intensified. Almost all of the Heroes Class A students in the facility are already very weak. There are many villain in the Villain Alliance. Although the overall strength is not very strong, it is better than the number. In terms of numbers, the students of Heroes Class A are weak, but they are stronger in terms of cooperation ability and Quirk actual combat. At this stage, the villain of the Villain Alliance has also been reduced by most, and it seems that the Villain Alliance is about to be declared a failure. But in the core area of the facility, it is the key to the battlefield. At this moment, in front of the door to the outside world. The black hole that can suck everything in and crush it, that's it, it's really an amazing Quirk. Kurogiri's body is constantly being absorbed and crushed by the black hole number 13, but it doesn't seem to affect his body. No, you are heroes who are active in disaster relief, sure enough. Compared to the average heroes, the combat experience is still slightly inferior. At this moment, Kurogiri turned on the teleportation function behind number 13, and the pulling force of the black hole on number 13 instantly transferred to herself. At this time, she had no time to react, and her back was directly torn, and the spacesuit was dark. A piece of it, can't see the main body. It's a hit. Number 13 stopped the pull of the black hole, and slowly fell down. Ashido Mina yelled anxiously. Teacher. No one thought that such a change would happen. Originally teacher number 13 suppressed villain, but he was attacked by a counterattack. Iida, run. Sato Rikido looked at Iida Tenya anxiously, quick. Iida Tenya seemed to be struggling violently in her heart. After a few seconds, her eyes suddenly became firm, and the engine accelerated and rushed towards the door. Damn it. The children have all been broken up. The only person waiting now is All Might. If we call other teachers, it will be very bad for us. Kurogiri suddenly appeared in front of Iida Tenya. The teleport function is turned on, and Iida Tenya must be sucked away. Everyone. All. Entrusted to me. Iida Tenya kept hinting to herself that he is now carrying the life of the entire class, and everyone has weighed on him. He can't fail. At this time, if it was Chi Feng, what would Midoriya do? Mezzo Shoji suddenly rushed over and wrapped Kurogiri with 6 hands to prevent him from dealing with Iida Tenya. Go. Everyone, wait for me to come back. Iida Tenya speeded up and rushed towards the door with his feet puffing smoke, almost. Kurogiri was a little angry. I will show off my cleverness, and I will never let you out. Kurogiri's head swept toward Iida Tenya. Regardless of his hands, feet, or head can perform teleportation functions. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. Automatic door. Iida Tenya analyzed the door as he ran. Do you want to kick it through? Can the thickness be kicked through? As Iida Tenya was thinking, Kurogiri had already come behind him. You are too arrogant. 4 eyes. Go away. The black mist instantly surrounded Iida Tenya, and there was nothing to see in the mist. What's the matter? Kurogiri was surprised. He found that he had actually moved away from the 4-eyed boy, flying towards the back, and his body became extremely light, and he was out of his control for a while. Although I don't know what the principle is, but if you wear this, it means you still have a physical presence, right? Uraraka Ochako played a big role at the critical moment, throwing Kurogiri into the sky and shouting, "Go come on, Mr. Iida." Iida Tenya nodded gratefully to Uraraka Ochako, rushed to the door and broke the door with both hands, opening it abruptly. Although Kurogiri was thrown into the air by Uraraka Ochako, he was the veteran of the villain alliance. How could he be defeated by a student's trick? He rushed towards Iida Tenya again. Don't think about it. Shiro Honda bent his elbow, and the tape launched from his arm stuck to Kurogiri's silver armor. Sato Rikido seized the opportunity and pulled the tape back and pulled it hard. Kurogiri didn't move forward and went back was dumped to the sky. Iida Tenya finally opened the door and rushed out. What he now bears is the life of everyone in the Heroes Division A class. He must use all his strength to complete it. Engine, push. The engine on the calf suddenly burst out with a red light, and a burst of white smoke rose out quickly, and Iida Tenya quickly disappeared from the outside of the facility. Reinforcements are coming. Kurogiri in the facility was a little angry, but in order to maintain a gentleman's manner, he did not slaughter students frantically. The game is over. Chi Feng has fainted at the moment. This is caused by too much physical exhaustion. However, he can be conscious in his system. At this moment, he is standing in an extremely empty room, with a huge roulette hanging in the sky directly in front of him. This should be his usual lottery roulette. On the left is a family-like furnishing, with a sofa, coffee table and refrigerator, which looks like a lounge area. Chi Feng walked towards the refrigerator and found that there were drinks inside, and many more. After taking a bottle of Blue Bull out, Chi Feng leaned on the sofa. He naturally knew that his body had fainted, otherwise it would not be possible to appear in such a strange place. Although he knew it was his own system, such a thing was also the first thing to do. Once it happens, it will inevitably be a little nervous. System. MMP, you are leaning on the sofa with drinks, still nervous? Of course, the system will not talk to Chi Feng like this. There is no sound in this huge space and it is extremely quiet. Suddenly a color screen appeared directly in front of Chi Feng. On the screen, you could see the situation in the USJ facility and the scenes of the students at this time. Seeing everyone working hard, Chi Feng felt emotional. After all, the power of one person is small, and the power of everyone is strong. He remembers that Bakugo Katsuki saved him in the end, which is really surprising. Bakugo Katsuki usually hates him Chi Feng, but at the critical moment, he is not sloppy at all, and he can distinguish the priority. This is what heroes did. It is not the kind of person who has little belly and chicken intestines. Chi Feng really didn't make a mistake. Although Bakugo Katsuki's personality is very bad and very popular, he is still very upright and worthy of relying on. System. Check the rescue points. System. Save 350 points. Chi Feng was stunned. Unknowingly, he had 350 salvage points. After looking at the records, he found that most of these salvation points were given by his classmates, and 50 salvation points came from Aizawa Shota. Under Nomu's blow, Chi Feng rescued Aizawa Shota, which may be the reason. Chi Feng thought, since he has rescue points and he is in the system space now, can he draw a lottery directly? System. Lottery. Chi Feng exclaimed tentatively. As a result, the lottery roulette actually turned. Chi Feng stood up in surprise and was saved. As long as he can draw something to recover his body, he can fight again. Currently Iida Tenya is running to school, but after all, he is not so fast. Aizawa teacher and Shoto Todoroki alone cannot beat Nomu unless All Might comes up. After the pointer stopped, Chi Feng was still a little happy. It was Quirk boosting Dan, but he was not happy the next moment. What is the use of this now? He is in a coma and can't use it. Chapter 39. Stop talking nonsense, let me blast you away. Bakugo Katsuki's violent temper suddenly came, and he was about to go up and beat Shigaraki Tamura. Don't do it, Aizawa Shota stopped Bakugo Katsuki. Now Chi Feng is still in a coma, but he doesn't have much combat power. If Bakugo Katsuki is also in danger, his pressure will become heavier. Midoriya Izuku's Quirk hasn't mastered the skills so far. He always harms himself in exchange for power, which may be useful at critical moments, but not now. Bakugo Katsuki stopped. He naturally knew that the two villains in front of him were strong, and he also knew that he was not an opponent, but if the fight was lost, even if the momentum was lost, he would really lose. Suddenly he looked at Chi Feng on Midoriya's back, with a hint of astonishment and sympathy in his eyes. Chi Feng's strength, Bakugo Katsuki, knew nothing better. Even Chi Feng was like this. He could only go up to death. However, Bakugo Katsuki feels that there is still a hint of happiness in his heart. Chi Feng, aren't you great? What now? It's not that I am still in a coma, but I, Bakugo Katsuki, is still standing. So far in this battle, the only regret for Chi Feng is that he failed to help number 13 through the difficulties. He has no time to help. If he goes to support number 13, then Aizawa Shota will definitely be seriously injured, leading to future Quirk will be lacking. This is what Chi Feng didn't want to see, and although number 13 was injured, but the injury is not too serious, at least much better than Aizawa Shota. At this moment, the two sides are in a stalemate, and no one has acted first. In the current situation, the UA High School people are at a disadvantage, and the Villain Alliance has the upper hand. If the people of the Villain Alliance attack desperately, the people of Heroes Class A will not be spared. You don't seem to have a good temper. Shigaraki Tamura looked at Bakugo Katsuki, who was standing aside, with contempt in his tone. Huh? Bakugo Katsuki tilted his head and said to Shigaraki Tamura, do you have an opinion? Oh, that's not it. Shigaraki Tamura suddenly smiled. By the way, you seem to be a party to the silt incident, right? Oh, I just remembered it. Not good. Aizawa Shota's face changed. According to his knowledge of Bakugo Katsuki, Shigaraki Tamura said this obviously to irritate Bakugo Katsuki. I hate someone mentioning this to me. Bakugo Katsuki lowered his head and couldn't see the expression on his face, but his tone was obviously a bit angry. Oh, so what about you? Shigaraki Tamura opened her hands and said indifferently. I want to blow you up. Bakugo Katsuki suddenly exploded, rushing towards Shigaraki Tamura. His hands exploded, accumulating power. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. Shigaraki Tamura squinted his eyes and turned his head to the left, avoiding Bakugo Katsuki's attack, then backhanded Bakugo Katsuki under control, and placed his left hand on Bakugo Katsuki's neck, facing the crowd.
Don't move, you will die. Shigaraki Tamura smiled and took the home court position.
Bakugo Katsuki gritted his teeth and said, damn it, originally, he planned to give Shigaraki Tamura a heavy blow, but the opponent seemed to react very quickly. His second move was stopped before it could be used. It really became a burden. I've seen through your tricks a long time ago. The students are students after all and lack experience. Shigaraki Tamura's left hand kept sliding on Bakugo Katsuki's neck, as if his neck would collapse with just a little effort. Let go of him, something is coming to me. Aizawa Shota stood up, and now they really became a complete disadvantage. Ems Aizawa. Midoriya cried out worriedly. He was worried about the teacher, but even more worried about Bakugo Katsuki, who was restrained by Shigaraki Tamura. Although he usually bullies him for small victories, the one who knows him the most about Midoriya is Xiaosheng. This is beyond doubt. Midoriya, protect Chi Feng, and leave it to me here. Aizawa Shota said with a weakened body in order to make the students feel calm. However, all of this has been discovered by Shigaraki Tamura, and he said indifferently, I said teacher, you are still holding on after you were like this. Do you think you can't die? Let go of Bakugo Katsuki, I'll take it. Aizawa Shota took a step forward and took off the goggles, which meant that he didn't intend to resist anymore, and was still at the disposal of the Villain Alliance. Shigaraki Tamura's eyes suddenly brightened, it's so touching. As a teacher protecting students, it's right, but have you ever thought that I was once such a protected person, but the person who protected me is not there? Now, all of this is the result of the current society. The Villain Alliance is not wrong, it is the world that is wrong. My teacher told me that when the light is completely covered, darkness will appear. This darkness is something derived from your bright people. In the final analysis, I still blame you. Shigaraki Tamura took a breath and left his left hand. Bakugo Katsuki's neck was pointed at Midoriya. Give me the kid behind you, and I will let him go. Shigaraki Tamura stared at Midoriya Izuku and said. Ah. Midoriya took 2 steps back in fear. The opponent's purpose was Chi Feng, and they wanted to take Chi Feng away. Aizawa Shota stood in front of Midoriya and looked at Shigaraki Tamura and said, I said, if you have something to ask me, my students will not give it to you, and no one will work. It's really spine, then you go and die first. Shigaraki Tamura glanced at Nomu, and Nomu walked towards Aizawa Shota. It seemed that every step of it was extremely heavy in everyone's hearts. Is this the end of Heroes Class A? Would Mr. Aizawa die? Brother Midoriya, put me down. At this moment, Chi Feng suddenly spoke. Midoriya turned to look. Chi Feng still closed his eyes, but his mouth said, I must be tired after carrying me for so long. Come back, I will treat you to curry rice. At this moment, Midoriya burst into tears. He couldn't stop this feeling, as if he had a lot of grievances in his heart. Chi Feng's eyes suddenly opened, and 2 electric currents hit Shigaraki Tamura's right hand and hit the back of the opponent's hand without error. Bakugo Katsuki seized the opportunity to explode and successfully broke free. Why did Chi Feng wake up again? Why can the weak quirk be used again? The answer lies in the system space. Chi Feng used 300 rescue points to draw the extended version of the quirk supplement. This supplement has 2 more supply opportunities on the original basis, a total of 5 times. After taking a breath, he returned directly to his body, and his injuries and quirk were all restored to their peak state. After Midoriya put Chi Feng down, Chi Feng patted Midoriya on the shoulder, go away, and the real battle will follow. After speaking, Chi Feng took out the quirk supplement and handed it to Aizawa Shota, teacher, take a breath. Take a breath. Aizawa Shota was slightly surprised, but still accepted the quirk supplement that Chi Feng handed over. He remembered what Aizawa Shota said before, I said, if you have something to ask me, my students will not give it to you, no one. Chapter 40 Catch Chi Feng in this regard. Chi Feng is a grateful person. Whoever helps him, he will help whoever is good to him, he will be good to whoever is good to him. Although Aizawa Shota is not good at words sometimes, he always stands in front of the students at critical moments and protects everyone.
Of course, All Might is the same. They have justice in their hearts, like the vast ocean and the magnificent waves.
After taking a sip of the Quirk supplement, Aizawa Shoto was shocked to find that his Quirk ability had recovered quickly, and the previous elbow injury had also recovered completely, as if he had never been injured. Shigaraki Tamura's pupils shrank and stared at the Quirk supplement. This thing has such a magical effect. I don't know how many times I can use it. If you bring it back, it should be of great help to the teacher's current body, right? What is this? Aizawa Shoto returned the Quirk supplement to Chi Feng. Its effect is more powerful than the super activation of Recovery Girl's healing power. Well, Chi Feng smiled, of course it's a secret. Shoto Todoroki was a little surprised. It was not this Chi Feng sucked for him before. Although they look the same, he can still see the difference. Isn't Chi Feng more than one heaven-defying thing? Aizawa Shoto is not a nosy person either. Since Chi Feng said it is a secret thing, then don't ask. Are they all energetic? Shigaraki Tamura didn't feel that the scene was uncontrollable. As long as All Might did not come, these students and teachers weren't Nomu's opponents. This Nomu could not be compared with the other two. This Nomu has been researched and manufactured a long time ago, and the two Nomu killed by Chi Feng before are just some defective products, and their strength and speed have not reached Shigaraki Tamura's expectations.
The reason why the two Nomu were brought here was just in case, but now they were dealt with by the students, which made Shigaraki Tamura feel very embarrassed.
Nomu, everyone else is killed except that kid. Shigaraki Tamura finally gave the order that Chi Feng must take it away today, not to mention what the red thing is. A single mouthful can restore a person to his original condition, just take it. Chi Feng's quirk made Shigaraki Tamura very tricky. The most important point is that if Chi Feng's quirk is mastered by the teacher, then All Might is not a concern at all. Nomu used his full strength this time and suddenly killed Aizawa Shoto first. Aizawa Shoto used the quirk to eliminate it, but it seemed that the other party did not react at all. It really proved that Chi Feng said that eliminating the quirk was useless. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. But as a teacher, even if eliminating the opponent's quirk is useless, he can deal with it. Nomu and Aizawa Shoto fought together, and Chi Feng and others faced Shigaraki Tamura. Little ghosts from UA High School, let's go together. Shigaraki Tamura hooked Chi Feng, Shoto Todoroki and others. Although the quirks of these little ghosts are difficult to deal with, he, as the principal of the villain alliance, can't hold back. Just to my liking, Bakugo Katsuki burst into a huge fire with both hands and swept towards Shigaraki Tamura. This time he was not stupid enough to fight in close quarters. Shoto Todoroki stroked his right hand, and an ice stream instantly appeared on the ground. In a crowded environment, he could only improve the purity of the ice, but it was not easy to release large-scale freezing skills. Midoriya had no power to control, so he could only stay to protect Tsuyu Sauce and Mineta Minoru. Chi Feng saw that everyone was so motivated, a flame was ignited in his heart, and he opened his mouth and smiled, let's let it all, I'm here. When the voice fell, Chi Feng suddenly jumped up, spitting thunder in the air wanton, lei tong lei. Like a tornado, Chi Feng whirled towards Shigaraki Tamura. Everyone only saw his spitting thunder light. They could not see Chi Feng. It seemed that Chi Feng's whole person was like thunder light. Why does this guy have so many moves? And they all have names. Bakugo Katsuki said uncomfortably. It seems that even Chi Feng is better than him in this regard. Shoto Todoroki glanced at Bakugo Katsuki. Wait for you to go back this time, can you think of some tricks? Bakugo Katsuki grinned and said, half of the face, what do you mean? What does it mean to go back with life? Who can kill lousy? Shoto Todoroki didn't have the time to talk to this irritable guy. At this time, the attack of the three had arrived, but because of Bakugo Katsuki's quirk, the scene was smoked and it was impossible to tell what happened to villain. The next moment, Chi Feng retreated from the smoke and dust, Shigaraki Tamura followed, and there were some wounds on his arm, which seemed to be caused by Chi Feng. I have to take you away if I say anything today, the teacher will definitely like it. Shigaraki Tamura grabbed Chi Feng with his right hand. Chi Feng accelerated his feet and hid. Teacher? Chi Feng suddenly remembered, isn't Shigaraki Tamura's teacher the owner of All for One? Thinking of that terrifying man, Chi Feng felt the pressure multiplied invisibly. To be honest, this man was indeed close to invincibility. If he absorbed the quirks of some powerful heroes for his own use, it would definitely be a bad news. If Chi Feng's double quirks fell into the hands of All for One, then All Might would be dangerous, not to mention Chi Feng brags how powerful his quirk is. According to the current level, only LV3 can cause such a powerful destructive power. If it is in the hands of All for One, the destructive power will rise linearly, and it is even possible to use air manipulation to kill people in a city. All for One? Chi Feng said with a straight face, let him wait for me, maybe I will find him soon. You actually know my teacher? Shigaraki Tamura's eyes widened. Chi Feng said these words very strangely. It seems that the other party has known that All for One is on their side for a long time, and they seem to know some things. Chi Feng waved his right hand, and a thunderbolt struck him. Villain alliance is very powerful, but we are not weak. Wait and see the good show. Shigaraki Tamura stopped after avoiding the lightning and looked at Aizawa Shoto who was fighting on the side. At this time, Aizawa Shoto was covered in blood and was obviously injured again. Aizawa Shoto obviously couldn't hold on for long. At this moment, Nomu suddenly stopped fighting with him and rushed towards the other side, very fast. That's... Aizawa Shota's face changed, and Nomu rushed towards Chi Feng. They actually wanted to take Chi Feng away directly. The conversation between Shigaraki Tamura and Chi Feng is only known to them. He feels that although he could not kill All Might this time, he only needs to take Chi Feng away. One Chi Feng is enough for the villain alliance to be on the top stage. It is him. All for one behind. Then, this classmate, come with us. Shigaraki Tamura laughed, and Nomu made a full shot. Except for All Might, everyone present is unstoppable. What is waiting for Chi Feng is to be caught. Chapter 41 All Might is here. At this time, 10,000 Sao FCK in Chi Feng's heart collapsed. He had known that he would not pretend to be like this. Shigaraki Tamura was determined to take him away. He went to the base camp of Villain Alliance. How could he still be Chi Feng's living hope? No, he has to use the air to control. Even if his double quirk is exposed, he must take the risk. If he is taken away by the Villain Alliance, it will be too late.
Air lock. Boom. Before Chi Feng could say the last word in its entirety, he heard a loud noise coming from the exit. Following a burst of smoke, a man in a suit and collar gradually walked out of the white mist. Nomu stopped. Shigaraki Tamura turned to look around. His pupils shrank suddenly. He came. Chi Feng was about to cry, and shouted at the stalwart figure above. Uncle O, you are here, I can't hold on anymore.
Everyone saw All Might appear with a smile on their faces. All Might is here, the strongest heroes. The students in various regions are almost over fighting at this moment. Most of them have seen All Might on the high platform, and their hearts are filled with excitement and a sense of stability. It's okay. All Might's resolute face gradually appeared. Although there was a smile on his face, it was full of joy and anger, because I'm here. All Might. Little Grape Mineta Minoru cried out in tears. He thought he was going to die here today. Now that All Might appeared, he was so touched that he didn't want it. Kurogiri appeared in front of Shigaraki Tamura out of thin air and said a little apologetically, Shigaraki Tamura, some of the students who could not be transferred were escaped by them. Shigaraki Tamura suddenly became a little irritable. He kept holding his hands around his neck, his skin was quickly scratched, and some blood shed. Kurogiri, you. If you hadn't been able to teleport, I would have pinched it a long time ago. Become a fan. Although Shigaraki Tamura was extremely angry, he suddenly stopped his hand movements and looked up at the high platform. The game continues. The deeper the darkness, the brighter the light that appears. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. All Might is like a Tarzan, standing in the hearts of everyone. His stalwart figure tells everyone that he is here, so don't be afraid of everything. It is precisely because of the words of All Might that their hearts are settled. It seems that as long as All Might is there will be nothing that cannot be solved, and there will be no undefeated villain. In the eyes of the righteous, All Might is like this, but in the eyes of the evil, All Might is like a thorn in the flesh, like a Tarzan, which makes them breathless. Where All Might appears, evil forces will be defeated, and the scales of victory will lean toward the right. However, at present, only the Villain Alliance can break this balance. There may be an organization similar to the Villain Alliance somewhere in the country or in some parts of the world. Maybe they have different goals and different ideas, but all different paths lead to the same goal. Evil is evil after all, and their thoughts and paths will eventually leave black shoe prints, which are difficult to erase. I have always had an ominous premonition, so I interrupted the conversation with the principal and rushed over. All Might walked forward, every step being extremely steady. I just met the boy Iida halfway, so I just ran into it. I probably heard the situation here. Really, I am extremely angry with myself, how scared the children are, and how hard the younger generations are, but because of this, I have to stand up and say it once. All Might walked to the high platform. At the forefront, his right foot stepped firmly on the ground, and he said, it's okay, because I'm here. Shigaraki Tamura walked a few steps forward with her hands hanging down. I have been waiting for you for a long time, heroes, social garbage. All Might glanced at Aizawa Shota, who was covered in blood and was kneeling on one knee. Suddenly a gust of wind passed by. He appeared in front of Aizawa Shota and helped him up. Aizawa-san, how are you? Aizawa Shota gasped and said, I'm okay, but you were late. Sorry Mr. Aizawa, I thought it was good to teach the children together. I was indeed late. All Might said with some shame, but Aizawa Shota was actually saying the opposite. All Might was not too late, and the children were still there. Everything is fine. However, if All Might is later, I am afraid that Chi Feng will be taken away by them. All Might's eyes suddenly opened. In just an instant, 3 or 4 students, including Chi Feng, were taken away by him and placed in a safe area. At this moment, Shigaraki Tamura's hand suddenly fell, which was also what All Might did. Everyone, go to the exit. All Might commanded. At this time, he can only take over the battlefield, and he can only take over. Aizawa-kun was seriously injured. It's up to you, come on. Chi Feng walked up at this time and looked at All Might and said, Ms. Aizawa is okay, but you have to be careful of the guy with the black brain exposed. It's called Nomu. The quirk seems to be shock-absorbing and super regenerative. The power can match you. All Might glanced at Chi Feng in surprise. To tell the truth, he liked Chi Feng very much. If Midoriya did not appear, he would choose Chi Feng as his candidate. Judging from Chi Feng's current words, he knows well about this villain named Nomu, but if the power can match him, how does Chi Feng know? Although these things are a bit complicated at this time, All Might nodded to Chi Feng, indicating that he understood. This can't work, it can't work, Shigaraki Tamura said sadly, covering her face with her hands. I'm sorry, father. While speaking, he picked up his hand from the ground and pressed it on his face. Shigaraki Tamura suddenly sighed in relief, as if the precious things had not been lost. Saving people while also beating people, by the way, it's worthy of nationally recognized violence. It's too fast and I can't keep up with my eyes, but it's not as powerful as I thought. Shigaraki Tamura turned his head, revealing half of his face with a weird face with a smile. Is the rumor really true? Say you are weak. Although Chi Feng and All Might talked about Nomu just now, Midoriya was still worried and said to All Might. All Might, although the strength I used is only to the extent that it won't break the wrist, it doesn't move at all, that guy must be. Midoriya boy. All Might waved his hand without looking back, then turned around, made a yeah gesture with his hand in his eyes, and said, no problem. Midoriya's heart seemed to be wrapped in warm currents, so he no longer hesitated, and helped Mr. Aizawa to go to a safe area first, where it was handed over to the symbol of peace, All Might. Chapter 42. After Midoriya Izuku left, All Might turned and rushed towards Shigaraki Tamura, shouting, Carolina. Nomu. Shigaraki Tamura said lightly, and Nomu immediately stood in front of him. Smash. All Might crossed his hands forward, but slashed on Nomu's body, and a wave of waves was set off in the big lake behind Nomu, which shows how strong All Might is. After the waves fell, All Might's face gradually became serious. This villain named Nomu did not show any damage. In other words, the boy Chi Feng said exactly what the villain named Nomu had come to him. Nomu rolled his eyes, stared at All Might and opened his mouth, as if laughing at him, and then suddenly hugged All Might with both hands, trying to restrain it. Sure enough, there is no effect at all. After avoiding the opponent's strong hug, All Might punched Nomu in the stomach, but the effect was the same, and Nomu was not hurt. At this moment, All Might suddenly saw a hole in Nomu's right waist, but it seemed to be healing quickly. Chi Feng said that it has the ability to regenerate, and it is true, but whoever can hurt it? Such a powerful villain? Who caused this wound? If you want to cause harm to Nomu, it will be more effective to cut out the meat little by little. Of course it will give you a chance, then it is a different matter. Shigaraki Tamura opened his hands. It seems that Nomu is his highest the masterpiece's average and can compete with the strongest heroes All Might. Thank you for your special explanation. All Might came behind Nomu, hugged it by the waist and fell back and smashed it. If this is the case, it would be a piece of cake. Boom. There was a bang, and the gray smoke rose straight up into the sky. Shigaraki Tamura put his hands in front of his face. The wind and waves made it difficult for him to open his eyes. Okay, it deserves it. Sato Rikido looked at All Might and slammed Kamui, shaking his fist and exclaimed, that group of guys underestimate All Might. Why does a back fall make it like an explosion? Mineta Minoru touched his chin and said excitedly, All Might is overwhelmingly strong. They're safe now, some distance from the center. Obviously, in class, he is a novice teacher who needs to watch the stir-fry. Suyu-chan also thinks that All Might is the strongest at this time, and All Might in class is more cordial. Come on, beat him, Mineta Minoru suddenly shouted. After the gray smoke disappeared, a wisp of bloodline came out from the corner of All Might's mouth, and gritted his teeth and said with difficulty, Origin. Was it this kind of idea? Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. At this moment everyone discovered that Kurogiri used the teleport function to transfer Nomu's upper body to All Might's lower body, and Nomu's hands were inserted into the flesh of All Might's waist, locking All Might's in a strange posture. Action. Are you planning to plunge him into the depths of the concrete floor and block his actions? Shigaraki Tamura said with a jealous smile, that can't be blocked. Because Nomu's strength is comparable to yours. Kurogiri also restricted All Might's ability to move, and said calmly, he knew best about Nomu's strength. He. Shigaraki Tamura smiled a few times and said to Kurogiri, awesome, Kurogiri, the opportunity just appeared so suddenly. Kurogiri frowned suddenly. All Might seemed to be trying to get out of this locked state with strength. The symbol of peace was really strong. This kind of power is really desirable. But this is of no use. The fingers of Nomu's hands are deeply pierced into All Might's waist. All Might gritted his teeth and said, there's my weakness, stop it. After giving up cuddling Nomu, All Might tried to break Nomu's hand, but the next moment he discovered the problem. Nomu's power was too strong. That's the way you committed the crime for the first time. Give me awareness. Even if All Might couldn't move at this time, he didn't forget to affect villain's heart. This group of villains seemed to have planned for a long time, and it was against him. Kurogiri. Shigaraki Tamura scratched his chin and looked at Kurogiri, as if giving some order. Although I hate things like blood viscera overflowing in my body, if it is a big man like you, I would be very happy to accept it. Kurogiri said unhurriedly, Nomu's task is to make it fast. You, who makes people unable to keep up, are bound, and then my task is to close half of your body in the door and tear you apart. Hello. At this moment of tension, Chi Feng walked over with his arms, looked at the three guys and said, the three of you seem to have forgotten our existence. You think we will look at you stupidly? Tear All Might into two pieces? Shoto Todoroki was standing on the left side of Chi Feng. Bakugo Katsuki, who was not convinced, stood obediently on the right side of Chi Feng. Midoriya, who was carrying Aizawa Shota, was relieved. He wanted to rush out to save All Might. He wouldn't watch All Might die in front of him. Even if Midoriya died by himself, he wouldn't let All Might die to save everyone. Now Chi Feng, Shoto Todoroki, and Bakugo Katsuki are present, and Nomu and Kurogiri can't be distracted. Only Shigaraki Tamura can move. Shigaraki Tamura almost forgot to have Chi Feng, a difficult player, suddenly became a little irritable, and said to Kurogiri, "Hurry up." Kurogiri nodded in response and began to implement the plan to tear All Might into pieces.
You are delusional. Chi Feng tugged with both hands, and the thunder spear appeared and hit Kurogiri's silver armor. This position seemed to be where Kurogiri needed protection, which was where Kurogiri's weakness was.
Don't be too arrogant, kid. Shigaraki Tamura rushed towards Chi Feng, and after solving Chi Feng, there would be no so many hidden dangers.
Shoto Todoroki naturally wouldn't let Shigaraki Tamura succeed. 2 ice streams shot at him. Bakugo Katsuki knew that he was not Shigaraki Tamura's opponent in close combat. Now that he is smarter, he stands far away and uses Quirk to attack Shigaraki Tamura.
The thunder spear hit Kurogiri's body. Kurogiri relaxed a little with pain. All Might began to struggle quickly. Kurogiri seemed to be afraid of thunder and lightning.
Chi Feng's eyes lit up and it was easy to handle. I'm sorry everyone, please bear with me.
Shoto Todoroki glanced at Chi Feng. At this moment, Chi Feng pressed his hands on the ground and said, "Thunder is shaking. It's really the enemy in me." Bakugo Katsuki said, and suddenly used the explosion to rush into the sky to avoid Chi Feng's attack. Shoto Todoroki immediately raised an icicle under his feet and moved his body higher. All Might is not so lucky. Thunder concussion is an indiscriminate attack, but according to All Might's physical fitness, Chi Feng directly ignores his end of harm. The ground began to tremble for a while, and the lightning ran around on the ground continuously, attacking every villain's body. Kurogiri was overwhelmed immediately, and the teleport quirk that restrained All Might from being pulled down also failed. Although All Might was also affected, but this attack effect has no effect on him at all. Just like Nomu, he is not affected at this moment. Chi Feng only targeted Kurogiri, and the others were incidental. The purpose was to let All Might break free from Nomu and Kurogiri's combination. Chapter 43 Villain Alliance Retreat. The next moment All Might managed to get rid of Nomu, and fell on Chi Feng's side with some gasping, and said with a smile, "Thanks to you, Chi Feng is a teenager." Chi Feng stood up and looked at All Might's wound, and asked, "How about the injury on the waist, can I still persist?" "No problem." All Might grinned and looked at Chi Feng. "When I first came, what did you call me?" Chi Feng suddenly smiled brightly, "Uncle O, ha ha ha." All Might smiled with emotion, "I am really old, but that's a good name." "Then of course, is this name only suitable for you?" Chi Feng laughed and slapped All Might's back with a slap of blood. All Might spit out a mouthful of blood. "Hey, what are you doing?" Bakugo Katsuki looked at Chi Feng with his eyes wide open. "All Might is already weak. You still do it like this?" "No problem." All Might gritted his teeth and said, "Chi Feng boy doesn't know his physical condition, so he can't be blamed, but now he is indeed injured and his strength is greatly reduced. Come on, take this one." Chi Feng handed the quirk supplement to All Might. "Chi Feng boy, what is this?" All Might asked puzzledly. What did Chi Feng give him this time? "You'll know after one sip." Chi Feng laughed. There was no expression on All Might's face. He took a sip after receiving the quirk supplement. After a few seconds, his eyes lit up and his smile bloomed again. "Chi Feng boy, please take good care of such precious things, but after the matter is over, you have to ask you and me to go to the police station." All Might returned the quirk supplement to Chi Feng and smiled. "Kurogiri, the plan has changed." Shigaraki Tamura knew that All Might could not be killed today. Nomu can't kill All Might, no matter how strong he is. Who knows how many times the red weird thing can be used. If there is still several times, then his trump card Nomu will be abandoned. Kurogiri received the instruction and immediately came behind Shigaraki Tamura. "Shigaraki Tamura, what should I do next?" "Bring me and Nomu back." Shigaraki Tamura stared at Chi Feng. If this kid can't be used by his villain alliance, he must be eradicated, but not now. In addition, there are Shoto Todoroki, Bakugo Katsuki, and Midoriya Izuku who resembles the power of All Might. He will solve them in the future. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. "No, they are leaving." Chi Feng's expression changed. If Shigaraki Tamura takes the black Nomu and leaves, the future variables don't know what will happen, so they can't be let go. "Leave it to me." All Might's feet suddenly exploded and rushed towards Shigaraki Tamura. Kurogiri's teleportation function was turned on. Nomu immediately blocked Shigaraki Tamura's body and blocked All Might's punch. Suddenly it got caught up in a piece. "Let's go first." Kurogiri wanted to take Shigaraki Tamura away directly. After all, the most important thing here is Shigaraki Tamura. "No, you have to take Nomu back." Shigaraki Tamura insisted that the Black Nomu is their highest masterpiece so far. It took too long to cultivate, and it exists to defeat All Might, and you have to take it away. At this moment, Shigaraki Tamura suddenly couldn't breathe, with a trace of horror in his eyes, looking around, but he didn't find who was the culprit. Kurogiri's gaze suddenly condensed. He saw that there seemed to be energy fluctuations in Chi Feng's left hand. Is it because of this Chi Feng that Shigaraki Tamura is doing this now? But isn't the other party using thunder and lightning? What kind of trick is this? Shigaraki Tamura began to resist. Chi Feng's chest was sore. Shigaraki Tamura was too strong after all. Chi Feng was a little hard to overcome. Sure enough, Quirk still needs to suppress Quirk by strength, otherwise it can only be a support. Nomu. Shigaraki Tamura gave the order again. Nomu instantly rushed to Kurogiri, who was teleporting from the fight. How could All Might let him escape? One hand grabbed Nomu, who was already half of his body in Kurogiri, and wanted to pull him out. Kurogiri suddenly spit out a mouthful of blood and displayed a certain ability. The pulling force instantly doubled several times. Even All Might could no longer hold Nomu. When Nomu entered Kurogiri, he disappeared without a trace. Let them escape. All Might looked down at his hands. He felt that the lost power seemed to be back again. Is it the effect of the magical thing of Chi Feng's youth? The first battle of the Villain Alliance is over. Professional heroes are facing a fierce battle, the evil world. For the students, it's still too early to experience. In this battle, except for the 13th, Aizawa Shota's injuries were not as severe as those in the original book. These are all the credit of Chi Feng, or the Quirk supplement. The Villain Alliance will surely regroup when they go back this time, and their strength will increase exponentially. At this time, the teachers from Heroes Academy also arrived, but they found that the battle was over and they were late. Comrades, you seem to be late, All Might grinned. What about Villain? The marksman asked. He was ready to show off his skills, but it was all over. However, he still saw that there were a few places in the facility where students were in danger. He pointed his left hand somewhere. The gun pulled the trigger, and several bullets hit Villain, who was a kilometer away, in the direction. 100 steps to where Yang, worthy of a sharpshooter. Villain escaped. All Might said embarrassingly. He was the strongest heroes, but he failed to keep Villain. It was embarrassing to say. However, most of the teachers understand All Might. After all Might is not as good as before. Although the confidentiality work is done very well, some professional heroes have also guessed something. At this time, in a bar in a certain city, a purple-black whirlpool appeared, and Kurogiri returned with Shigaraki Tamura and Nomu. This is a bar with a dark style and no guests. It hurts. Shigaraki Tamura slumped on the ground, both hands and feet were shot, and all of them were killed in seconds. If Nomu was brought back, then the Villain Alliance would not exist. Shigaraki Tamura took a breath, his eyes sharpened suddenly. The children are very strong. UA High School is really a place to train heroes. The boy named Chi Feng must catch him. The symbol of peace is still alive. It's not the same as what you said, sir. Shigaraki Tamura suddenly looked at the TV screen and said, and the stinky kid named Chi Feng seems to know the existence of the teacher, and he also knows All for One. I know, but you still think that you are too optimistic and underestimate them. Fortunately, the group name you got is Villain Alliance. A cheap name. By the way, the work of the old man and husband is a collaboration. Where are the two Nomu? Haven't they taken it back? The two Nomu seem to have been killed by a boy named Chi Feng, the stinky kid Shigaraki Tamura said. Kurogiri said truthfully. Chapter 44. What? The people on the TV made an incredible voice. Yes, the young man named Chi Feng is very strong, and it seems to be a double quirk. Kurogiri affirmed that he clearly felt two different quirk abilities in Chi Feng's body, one is thunder and the other is he couldn't say it. Chi Feng. The person on the TV repeated, and then said, Shigaraki Tamura, this student named Chi Feng will leave it to you. I don't want to see the result today. Smelly brats. Shigaraki Tamura did not answer the words of the man on the TV. Instead, he was thinking back to Chi Feng and his group of stinky brats who hindered him. Without Chi Feng, Shoto Todoroki, Bakugo Katsuki and Midoriya Izuku, even a symbol of peace, All Might would die on the spot. Then the prestige of the Villain Alliance has increased, and it can absorb countless people for its own use, and then overthrow the pseudo-sacred place of Heroes Academy in one fell swoop. But now it's useless to say anything. The plan has failed. The Villain Alliance ended in failure this time. Fortunately, Nomu was brought back. Their losses were not heavy. The current Villain Alliance's trump card is Nomu. No amount of upset is useless, including this failure. It will never be in vain. Try to gather the elite. Take some time to take your time. We can't move freely, so a symbol like you is indispensable. The voice inside the TV came out again. Shigaraki Tamura, next time you must spread your horror to the world. 16.17.18.19. Sukachi now is counting the number of people, but the students seem to be full of vitality, not at all like people who have just experienced despair. Guess, where did I go? Aoyama Yuga smiled and fiddled with his hair. That's it, it seems that what you have met is also a group of gangsters. Tokiyami Fumikage was communicating with his classmates, and he did not hear what Aoyama Yuga said. Kirishima Eijiro didn't seem to have heard what Aoyama Yuga said, and said with a punch with both fists, you still treat us as little ghosts. Aoyama Yuga felt like he was being ignored, but still fiddled with his hair without paying attention. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. Anyway, students should go back to the classroom first. You can't come and ask what happened right now, right? Sukachi said, looking at the students. Mr. Criminal Police, Mr. Aizawa. Suyu-chan hopped to the front of Sukachi and asked worriedly. Although there was no worry on her expression, it did not mean that she had no thoughts in her heart. He's fine, he just suffered some skin injuries and a few broken ribs. To make Suyu-chan feel at ease, Sukachi Naomasa gave a smile. Where is teacher 13? Ashido Mina asked quickly. The treatment has been completed. The lacerations on the back and upper arm are very serious, but my life is safe. Sukachi looked at everyone. All Might is also no problem. It is said that one of your classmates called Chi Feng helped very busy. We will invite him to the police station to work with him at that time. Chi Feng. After hearing this, everyone understood that the key person in this battle was Chi Feng. It is said that Chi Feng had demonstrated superb combat effectiveness under such circumstances, and the villains who fought did not fight back. Force. In fact, Naomasa Tsukuchi was shocked. A student was so powerful and killed nearly 40 villains instead of defeating them. He killed them directly. This is not allowed by the current law and society. Although this incident is a bit special, Chi Feng killed someone after all, so he has to go to the police station no matter what. In the USJ facility, the principal looked at the devastated facility and said, it seems that it is necessary to significantly strengthen the security measures in the school. Transportation was originally an extremely rare quirk, but it is still on Villain's side. Midnight spread his hands and said. The principal glanced at Midnight and said, we also have rare quirks among our students. For example, today's classmate Chi Feng, his quirk is very strong.
Chi Feng. The marksman touched his waist and said, he is indeed a rare talent in a century. If he carves well, he must be a good jade.
At this point, the Villain Alliance attack came to an end. The police found 2 Nomu's bodies and took them back for research. They hoped to make progress from the 2 bodies. Chi Feng was informed that there is no need to continue classes this week, because Aizawa Shoto needs to rest and the school needs to be reorganized, so the students are closed. During this period, Chi Feng had to go to the police station to report, and there must be an explanation and judgment about his murder. After this battle, Chi Feng learned about his own shortcomings and the horrors of Nomu's strength. Now the Black Nomu is recovered by the Villain Alliance, and he may meet again soon. He must hurry to become stronger. After all, the Villain Alliance now besides All Might, his biggest target is Chi Feng. This battle also started the flag for the people of the Villain Alliance. People from all over the country knew about the existence of the Villain Alliance. Some villainous people who acted secretly seemed to have found a role model, found the mainstay, and were ready to move. A feast of darkness and light began. After Chi Feng returned home, the first time she went to visit Sister Ying, Inoue Ying was very worried about Chi Feng's safety after hearing about what happened today. Even the store did not open. Although the boss said a few words about Inoue Ying, he still understands her very well. The boss also knows that Inoue Ying asked Chi Feng to work here, but because Inoue Ying once lost her younger brother, the boss didn't say much. Which is to acquiesce in Chi Feng's affairs. Sister Ying, I'm really okay, don't you think I'm okay? Chi Feng said bouncily in order to make Inoue Ying not worry. Only then did Inoue Ying let go of her hanging heart. She looked at Chi Feng carefully and said, Zhao Feng, why don't you move to my place to live? You can't take care of yourself alone, just take a look. You are all thinner. Huh? Chi Feng was taken aback. What a joke. Let him live in Sister Ying's house. It's not over. It's not that Chi Feng will do anything. He now completely regards Inoue Ying as his sister, without any not thinking about it. But in this way, if Chi Feng lives in Inoue Ying's house, his secrets will be exposed. At the beginning, he said his speed is Quirk and runs fast. Waiting for a long time, it will inevitably be exposed. And the people of Villain Alliance stared at him. If he walks too close to Sister Ying, he will be caught by the Villain Alliance. When Sister Ying is taken away, he has no place to cry. Villain Alliance should not continue to act in a short period of time, but he doesn't know what the Villain Alliance will do next. After all, the current situation in the world have been changed, and any situation may happen. Chapter 45 In the week of rest, apart from one of the days Chi Feng will go to the police station to report, there are still 6 days. Chi Feng intends to make good use of these 6 days. He needs to make money and also needs to improve his strength. So where is the best place to go? Black market. Hit the black punch. That's right, Chi Feng decided to go to the black market to fight black boxing. There are too many capable people and strangers in this kind of place. If he goes here, he will not only make money, but also improve the strength of Quirk. Why not do it? Regarding Sister Ying's proposal, Chi Feng refused. He felt that he could not live with Inoue Ying yet. After all, he was not a sister and brother, and there was a difference between men and women. Chi Feng is like this to Inoue Ying, but not to his classmates. Those long ones are really shameful to the country, and they are simply a curse. Because of heroes, the general black market has closed down, and only a few black markets can take a long time in the underground market. The black market that Chi Feng is looking for is this kind of place, deeply rooted. But it's not easy to find it. Chi Feng is carrying a shoulder bag in the streets and alleys and asks some people who seem to be foolish. Generally this type of person knows more things, but when Chi Feng sometimes misses, the other party doesn't know anything. Excuse me. FK away, don't bother lousy. Before Chi Feng finished speaking, he was interrupted by the yellow-haired man in front of him and cursed Chi Feng. Oh, hey, Chi Feng said, rubbing his hands, it's really a toast, not eating or drinking fine wine. After the words were over, Chi Feng picked him up and walked to an uninhabited alley. What are you doing? The yellow-haired man suddenly became angry. Why, just start beating someone with a few curses. But the next moment he was shocked to find that he was actually unable to move, as if he was controlled by some kind of airflow or something else. After entering the alley, Chi Feng saw a camera facing him in the distance. He raised his index finger and moved to the side. The camera immediately moved to the side, avoiding Chi Feng. Tell me where there is a black boxing place nearby. Chi Feng put the yellow-haired man on the ground and said kindly.
This little yellow-haired kid didn't commit any crimes. He didn't need to beat others just because the other party scolded him. For example, if a dog bites you, would you still bite it back? Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi.
Even if you want to earn salvation points, it is not earned like this.
Black boxing. The yellow-haired man was stunned for a moment, and then began to think. After a few minutes, he said, I know there is a black boxing place, but it is very insecure and may die at any time.
Oh, as soon as Chi Feng heard this, he liked such a place. Where is it? Seeing that Chi Feng was a little excited, the yellow-haired man was surprised. Don't be a murderous maniac. If you look at this, you will know that it is not a good bird, and the quirk is also very weird. It is estimated that it is true in all likelihood. Immediately he took out his mobile phone and showed Chi Feng the specific location. Chi Feng remembered the location and asked the yellow-haired man to leave. The location on the map showed that it was in Shibuya. This place is a fashionable district with a lot of people. Chi Feng didn't hesitate, and immediately bought a ticket to Shibuya. According to his current strength, the average guy is not his opponent at all. He can kill even the junior Nomu. Is he afraid that those gangsters will fail? However, Chi Feng didn't care about it. There was a mixture of dragons and snakes in that kind of place, and maybe there were really masters on the scene. After arriving in Shibuya, Chi Feng went to the black market. About half an hour later, Chi Feng came to the back door of a shopping mall. The back door was made of a metal door, which looked very hard. There were two bald heads wearing suits at the door. The man stood, seeming to be the gatekeeper. I want to hit black boxing. Chi Feng walked over and said directly. The two bald heads glanced at Chi Feng in surprise, and one of them said, My kid, who told you there was a black punch here? A friend of mine often mixes in here, he told me. Chi Feng didn't care either. Since a yellow-haired kid he asked casually knew about this place, naturally there was no problem with this place. I'm sorry, underage people are not allowed to enter here. No introducer, no identity is not allowed. The bald man seemed to have no interest in Chi Feng, so he stopped paying attention. Chi Feng frowned. Is a black punch so troublesome? In desperation, Chi Feng found a corner, took out the cloak that he usually wears at night, then put on Tiga Altman's mask, and came to the two bald heads again. Are you? One of them asked cautiously with a bald head. People dressed like this generally have a lot of background, and he dare not easily offend him. Don't you see who I am? Chi Feng said in a low voice. The two were taken aback, they really didn't see who it was. I didn't see it, please let me know my identity, the bald man said kindly. Although they are cautious, it doesn't mean they are afraid. This underground black market is not something that everyone dares to provoke. It has a background. Two straight men with cancer. Chi Feng snorted coldly and said, I am the Legend of the Night. Legend of the Night? The two were stunned for a moment, and then one of the bald heads suddenly remembered, and said in surprise, You are the Legend of the Night that only works at night and punishes evil and promotes good? I finally recognized it. Chi Feng heaved a sigh of relief, and then said, Yes, it's me. But I still ask you to show your credentials, because we can't tell if you are really the Legend of the Night. The bald man said blankly, but he was still quite surprised. This is the Legend of the Night. They have only heard of it, and have not met me. Chi Feng moved his fingers, and the two suddenly floated. Do you believe it now? I believe it, I believe it. The two nodded again and again, and the quirk that could give them both to the person who was hanging in the air, and who did not show their sensuality, wasn't the underworld legend. They know that the quirk of the Legend of the Night seems to be an invisible force. Some say it is wind quirk, some say it is airflow, and some say it is buoyancy. In short, there are many versions of the Legend of the Night, which have not been confirmed. After the two opened the metal door, Chi Feng walked in. In the dark underground passage, suddenly the two walls lit up with a faint red light, which was actually a candle. There are about hundreds of steps in this passage. When Chi Feng reached the bottom, a huge red metal door stood in front of him. At the door stood a crocodile head and a dinosaur head man. Wearing a black cloak, Chi Feng walked over without speaking, neither did the two speak, and consciously opened the door. When the red metal door opened, Chi Feng heard the sound like a tide coming towards him. It was a loud shout. Chi Feng saw all kinds of people, surrounded by a huge ring, with bright lights inside, like the day. Chapter 46 3 Emperors, 7 Saints, and 5 Kings. It's amazing. After entering the black market, Chi Feng looked around. The black market is below the mall, and this mall has a large area, at least larger than a football field. If you put a few laser lights on the top, Chi Feng thought it was a top bar. It is divided into several areas. There are gambling, weapons and ammunition, and pornographic trading, but the most respected is the ring competition, commonly known as black boxing. Most of the people here are weird, or the dressing style is weird. They are all people with stories. Chi Feng didn't act rashly. He walked to the center, where the black boxing was played, which was the home court of the entire black market. Hit him on the chin, someone in the crowd shouted. Chi Feng looked at it and saw that two men were fighting each other on the ring surrounded by a layer of iron nets. Both sides were using their own quirks. At this moment, one of the men was kicked and hit. On the iron net, the next moment he started to convulse and fainted. Chi Feng had long discovered the current on the iron net, which should be to prevent escape. The fainted man fell to the ground and seemed to have lost consciousness. At this time, everyone started to roar, "Kill him! Kill him!" Chi Feng coldly looked at these people who regard life as grass, and there is anger in his heart. It is really not a good place here. Dead people seem to be a common thing. Life and death depends on the opponent.
If the other party wants to kill you, then you have to be prepared desperately, otherwise you will not only not win the money, but also lose your life.
On the arena, there is a huge LCD screen with the name and ranking of the black boxer. Chi Feng's eyes are on the top of the ranking. The first ranking guy is called Shenquan. Second place, the Sickle of Death. Third place, Chao Bei Chao. Fourth place, Clifford. Fifth place, Murder Girl. Sixth place, Katazo Road Ichiro. Seventh place, Bai Shui. Eighth place, River Overlord.
Ninth, Skeleton Killer. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi.
10th place, Shushan Trident. These 10 are all overlord figures in the black market. They also call the black market underground heroes. Chi Feng has heard that these people are in the underground heroes, and no one knows them. Chi Feng is a little interested in this. Knowing how strong these people are, there is no way to prove it.
If these people are much stronger than him, then his worldview may change.
Because the career heroes Chi Feng on the bright side knows a little bit, and their strength Chi Feng now has an intuitive impression, but this underground heroes is not visible, just like the villain alliance. If the strength is strong, Chi Feng will really want to rebuild. Examine the world. The 10 people on this ranking are called by the underground heroes, the 3 emperors, the 7 sages, and the 5 kings. The 3 emperors are naturally the top 3, and the 7 sages are the last 7. As for the 5 kings, they are players who are outside the top 10 in the ranking. These players are also candidates for underground heroes who think they can be promoted to the 7 sages, called the king. Chi Feng finds it interesting, but the 2 who fought in the ring just now seem to be of average strength, and they don't know who they are. My friend, are there 3 emperors, 7 sages and 5 kings among the 2 people on the ring? Chi Feng turned to a fat man and asked. After hearing the voice, the fat man looked at Chi Feng disdainfully, and found that Chi Feng was wearing a Tiga Ultraman mask and a black cloak. There are 2 types of people, one of which is difficult. The other kind of mess is a player who pretends to be a screener. The fat man felt that the guy in front of him was pretending, so he asked tentatively, "Are you new here?" "Yes, I'm new here." Chi Feng didn't care about Fatty's expression. He just wanted to know the strength of his opponent, so don't overturn the boat in the gutter. No wonder, the fat man touched his chin, and introduced to Chi Feng earnestly. The 2 guys just now are infamous players. The 3 emperors, 7 sages, and 5 kings did not appear during this time period, and the 3 emperors have not appeared for a long time. Why? Chi Feng asked quickly. The fat man was not impatient, but felt that he had a lot of face. He continued. Characters like the 3 emperors are basically no one can challenge them. Their status has always been stable. The number 1 Shenquan is said to be he was invincible 5 years ago, and he has not shown up for almost a year. Some people say that he took over the murder job abroad. Speaking of this, the fat man's body voice has been lowered a little. There is also the second death sickle. His horror has been imprinted in everyone's hearts. Basically no one dares to challenge him. In any battle with him, the entire ring will be sprinkled with blood. Hearing this, Chi Feng already feels something is wrong. The first 2 of these 3 emperors seem to be very strong, especially the Shenquan, who said they were invincible 5 years ago. It may be commercial flattery, but there is no doubt that it is strong. Then why did I never hear about them before I came here? Chi Feng was very puzzled. These people are so powerful, would the professional heroes just let it go? The fat man glanced at Chi Feng contemptuously, and then said, "Do you think professional heroes will intervene here? Of course not. The background and backing of this black market is very powerful, and the reason why you don't know it should be paid for you. You haven't reached this level, the things you touched are too shallow." Chi Feng suddenly realized that what he cared about was the affairs of the Villain Alliance and Heroes Academy. To be honest, he had never known about these underground heroes. If he didn't come here to fight black boxing this time, he might not know it for a long time. "Looking at you, it seems that you are here to fight the black boxing," the fat man said with a smile, "but you don't look very good with your body. Be careful of being beaten to death." "Hey fat man, can you say something nice?" Chi Feng said with a curled lips. "For the sake of your answer to me, if I win the game, I can treat you to a meal or take a shower." "Really?" The fat man leaned over and asked in surprise. Of course, but I have to ask you about these people again. I have to be prepared. Chi Feng patted the fat man on the back and said kindly. My name is Pingyuan Shangda, you can call me Shangda. Pingyuan Shangda looked at Chi Feng and then said, can you show me what you look like? No, Chi Feng directly refused. It really doesn't give you face. Pingyuan Shangda said silently, not even letting you look at his appearance. Is there such a fear of death? Suddenly he remembered something, looked at Chi Feng and said, are you going to challenge the 3 emperors, 7 saints and 5 kings? Isn't this nonsense? I won't challenge you to ask you so much why. Chi Feng looked at Pingyuan Shangda like a fool, and Pingyuan Shangda regarded Chi Feng as a fool at this time. Challenge the 3 emperors, 7 saints and 5 kings? Don't have a pit in your mind, right? Chapter 47 Dream Disaster. What's your name? Pingyuan Shangda asked. The Dark Knight. Chi Feng didn't hide it, after all, he can only use this name now. Such a soil name. Pingyuan Shangda seemed to have never heard of the legend of the night, and then persuaded him after touching his chin. I said you, don't think about this kind of death. I think you can only challenge that kind of little ringmaster. Oh no, maybe the little ringmaster can kill you. Why, look down on me so much. Chi Feng is upset. Do you still want Lousy to invite dinner? It's not that I look down on you. Underground heroes is not so easy to deal with.
Do you think that professional heroes are very strong, and that kind of office is very strong?
Pingyuan Shang shook his head and said, neither, nor, really powerful. They are all in the dark. They are the kind of people who can forbear lurking in the dark, not those who are glamorous and surrounded by everyone. Chi Feng agrees with this point. Shaoyan is hidden in the wild, and the big hidden in the city. There are people who hide their strength no matter where they are.
I think the person named Xiao Baichao seems to be the name of a Chinese person.
Yes, he is from China, and his strength is very strong. Why, are you stupid enough to challenge him? Pingyuan Shangda said with some worry. After all, if Chi Feng died, he would not have to eat. Chi Feng didn't speak, and asked after a while, is there a 5 Kings game recently? Pingyuan Shangda immediately said, yes, at 8 o'clock tomorrow night, the small steel cannon ranked 4th among the 5 kings will be challenged. There will be a good show. Okay, then we'll see you tomorrow. Chi Feng turned to leave after speaking, and soon disappeared into the crowd. Pingyuan Shangda is a bit speechless. Doesn't this guy really want to challenge those characters? Chi Feng didn't leave the black market directly. Instead, he moved around. There are people who openly sell bullets and guns. It seems that the business is good, but there seems to be a rule that people who have bought it once cannot buy it a second time. Chi Feng was not interested in these, but when he was about to leave the black market, he suddenly saw a familiar figure. Himiko Toga? Why is he here? Chi Feng was taken aback. He wanted to say hello in the past, but at the moment he looks like himself. It is not appropriate to say hello. Moreover, there were some embarrassing things between the two at the beginning. Chi Feng felt that he should not say hello anymore and wait for the next time. Anyway, there will be a small steel gun game among the 5 kings tomorrow, and Himiko Toga should be here. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. On the way home, Chi Feng picked up a few rascals and earned 100 rescue points. In addition to the end of the Villain Alliance incident, Chi Feng received a total of 800 rescue points. Most of them come from classmates, even All Mights. At present, Chi Feng does not plan to purchase the Quirk promotion pill. He currently has a Quirk promotion pill obtained by the lottery, but he is not in a hurry to eat. Now the experience required for Thor's return and air manipulation has become more, and every time he upgrades will change more. At that time, he needed to earn salvation points desperately, but it was also good to fight black punches in the black market. He could exercise Quirk directly, which saved a lot of Quirk promotion Dan. Chi Feng sat on the sofa watching the latest news, when his cell phone rang. It was actually a call from All Might. Chi Feng boy, please come to the police station the day after tomorrow. You need to take care of your affairs. All Might said kindly. Chi Feng is a key figure in the Villain Alliance incident. If there is no Chi Feng, maybe the students there were also casualties. Of course, the credit of Iida Tenya cannot be concealed, and the school knows this very well. I understand. Chi Feng responded. Don't stress, nothing, you did a great job this time, Chi Feng boy. All Might encourage him, and Chi Feng hung up after a few casual conversations with him. It was already 9 o'clock in the evening. Chi Feng thought that Sister Ying should be off work soon. He looked out the window, and suddenly his pupils shrank and stood up immediately. Coming to the window, Chi Feng found that the Fujiwara convenience store where Inoue Sakura was located was on fire. Sister Ying. Chi Feng didn't have time to think, and jumped directly from the window. Even if the quirk was exposed at this time, he couldn't control so much. Sister Ying is important. The fire is raging, and there are many people around watching. Some people are holding buckets and pouring on the fire, but they don't seem to have any effect at all. None of them quirk has a suppressing effect on the fire, so they all helpless. Chi Feng controlled the airflow and ran directly to the Fujiwara convenience store after falling downstairs. A bad premonition in his heart really happened. Sister Ying said that she often dreamed about fires. Chi Feng thought there was nothing to do, and it was just a dream. That's it. It doesn't seem to be the case now. Sister Ying's dream seems to have a foreboding, but Chi Feng didn't care about it at the beginning, but now it really happened. Chi Feng crossed the crowd and plunged directly into the flames. The blazing flame was 1 meter away from Chi Feng, unable to get close. Chi Feng anxiously looked for Sister Ying, and kept saying in his heart that nothing will happen. However, after 10 seconds, despair appeared on Chi Feng's face, and he did not find Sister Ying. Just when Chi Feng was going mad, he suddenly heard a voice in the warehouse. He immediately rushed over. The door was locked, but it was not difficult for Chi Feng. After opening the door, he found that Inoue Ying was lying on the ground weakly. The broom knocked on the door. Chi Feng burst into tears immediately, hugged Inoue Sakura, then punched through the wall of the warehouse with a punch, and swiftly headed to the nearby hospital. Chi Feng ran at full strength like a human-shaped lightning, constantly rushing on the road. Even the speed of the car was beyond the dust. After arriving at the hospital, Chi Feng handed Inoue Ying to the doctor, while he waited at the door. He couldn't understand why a small convenience store caught fire suddenly, and Sister Ying was locked in the grocery warehouse. This was absolutely man-made. Someone wanted to kill Sister Ying, or did they have other purposes? Chi Feng thought carefully and was terrified. He guessed some eyebrows. Maybe villain wanted to draw him out, or experimented with Sister Ying to see if he would help him. No matter who it is, if you dare to challenge my bottom line, you will have to pay the price of your life, Chi Feng said harshly. Half an hour later, the door of the emergency room opened. Before the attending physician walked out, before he could take off the mask, Chi Feng said anxiously, "How is my sister?" There is no life worry, but the inhaled carbon dioxide is too much, leading to a coma. At present, he still needs to stay in the hospital for observation for a few days. The doctor patted Chi Feng on the shoulder and then left. He had other things to do. Chi Feng breathed a sigh of relief and said to the doctor's back, "Thank you, doctor." "You're welcome." The doctor waved his hand and left. "It's okay." Chi Feng fell to the ground with a rock hanging in his heart, and then went to the inpatient department on the first floor to pay for the hospitalization. Chapter 48. Uncle U's heart. In the early morning of the next day, Inoue Ying, who had been accompanying Chi Feng for the night, opened her eyes. At first glance, she saw Chi Feng sitting next to her, meditating cross-legged. "Little wind," Inoue Sakura whispered. Chi Feng immediately opened his eyes and came to Inoue Ying and said with concern, "Sister Ying, how do you feel?" "I'm okay. Did you rescue me?" Inoue Ying thinks it is unlikely that Chi Feng rescued him. After all, Chi Feng has just entered UA High School not long, and even if she improves her strength, she cannot be rescued from the fire. Inoue Ying knows that Chi Feng's quirk is speed, just a 100-meter sprint. Chi Feng did not answer this question, but asked, "Do you know who did it?" Inoue Sakura recalled what had happened before, with a trace of horror in her eyes. She shook her head and said, "He is wearing a Doraemon mask. He is tall and burly. The quirk is a flame type. Other me I don't know. The flame is a quirk, wearing a Doraemon mask, and a burly figure." Chi Feng kept repeating. He wanted to master these only characteristics so that he could find the murderer in the future. "Zhaofeng, leave this to the police to do. You are still a student, don't get involved." Inoue Sakura seemed to be a little weak, speaking very softly, and coughing from time to time. Chi Feng looked a little distressed, stretched out a hand to pull a strand of her hair behind her ears, and then said softly, "Don't worry, Sister Ying, I won't do stupid things." "Yeah." Inoue Ying nodded. At this time, the attending physician came and checked Inoue Ying again. Then, she said to Chi Feng, "Your sister is fine. You can go through the discharge procedures." After thanking the doctor, Chi Feng went through the discharge procedures with Inoue Sakura on his back, and then took Inoue Sakura home directly. After arriving home, Chi Feng bought some fruit downstairs and saw the unrecognizable Fujiwara convenience store. At this moment, the Fujiwara convenience store is like a dark coal mine, with nothing left to burn. At this time, several police cars came, and 4 or 5 policemen walked down from them and came to Chi Feng. According to the information provided by witnesses, the victimized woman in this shop knows you, right? Chi Feng turned his head and glared at the police officer. "You are the victim. How do you talk?" 2 policemen stepped forward immediately, and they were about to stop Chi Feng. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. "You back," the police officer told the policeman next to him to back away, and then said to Chi Feng apologetically, "I was so embarrassed just now. You used the wrong word. Can you come with us now?" Chi Feng saw that he forgave what he said before in his attitude of admitting his mistake, and after thinking about it, he said, "Yes, but I will bring my sister some fruit and food first. You guys wait a moment." "No problem." The police officer smiled slightly, not worried that Chi Feng would run away. Chi Feng bought a lot of food and fruits, and then explained that Inoue Ying is staying at his house today, don't go anywhere, and wait for him to come back at night. Inoue Ying nodded obediently. At this moment, only Chi Feng is his closest person. She listens to what Chi Feng says. After going downstairs, Chi Feng directly followed a few policemen to leave, and at the same time notified All Might. He simply settled the matter today, and there is no need to come to the police station tomorrow. In the secret room, Chi Feng and All Might are sitting together, and sitting across from is the chief of police with a dog's head. "Let's not talk about Inoue Sakura first. Let's talk about the Villain Alliance incident. You killed 37 enemy personnel. You were supposed to accept sanctions. However,
Due to the special circumstances at the time, you also considered that your quirk was overused, which led to the killing.
37 people died. The head of the doghead continued, but you are not innocent. After a meeting unanimously discussed and decided, you will be allowed to stay in school for 3 months. During these 3 months, if you use quirk to hurt others, you will be directly expelled from Wu High School. Chi Feng didn't speak, and acquiesced. After all, he was murdering. Even if the opponent is villain, he shouldn't be guilty of the crime. Even if he is damned, it is not his turn to judge. Director Gudu saw that Chi Feng hadn't spoken, so he asked, "Do you have anything to add?" All Might did not speak during the whole process. Although he is a symbol of peace, it does not mean that he can shield his students. Chi Feng literally killed 37 people and 37 lives. All Might thinks about it. It's unbelievable that Chi Feng is still a student. Why is he so serious? But there was a reason. All Might didn't feel that Chi Feng did something wrong. On the contrary, he had higher expectations of Chi Feng. This student was someone he had never met before. It was well polished, and it was indeed a good jade. But on the contrary, if Chi Feng falls into darkness, then there is no doubt that the heroes will have another powerful villain. I don't have anything to add. They follow the police's intentions, but Chi Feng's eyes suddenly sharpened. But the murderer who hurt my sister, I hope the police can investigate. Director Doghead and All Might looked at each other, and they didn't expect Chi Feng to be so extreme. From their eyes, it can be seen that Chi Feng was very concerned about the suspect in the arson incident. Our police will hurry up and investigate, but I want to remind you that you'd better not act without authorization. You are staying in school for inspection at the moment, and nothing can happen, the director warned. In this case, if there is nothing wrong, I will leave. Chi Feng stood up. Chi Feng boy. All Might looked at Chi Feng. Please don't have negative emotions. All the police do naturally have their reasons, and they are also considered from your perspective. In addition, your sister's affairs, I will investigate as soon as possible, so you don't have to be stressed. All Might knows that Inoue Sakura and Chi Feng are not related. Even before Chi Feng came to the island country, neither of them knew each other, so Inoue Sakura and Chi Feng are nominal siblings. As for how the relationship between the two can start from this incident, it can be seen that Chi Feng cares about this Inoue Sakura very much. All Might, no matter what, I still thank you. To be honest, Chi Feng knew that All might have helped him with some things. Otherwise, killing 37 people would be enough for him to be expelled. Stay in school for 3 months. After Chi Feng left, All Might also stood up and bowed to the chief of the police station. This kid also asks you. The director was silent for a while and said, "This boy is a good material. I will not watch him go astray." Thank you so much. All Might bowed again. He was very concerned about Chi Feng and the Midoriya boy. Although Midoriya Izuku is his successor, it is true that Chi Feng's abilities and personality are all his fancy. Yes, he will not favor Midoriya, nor will he help Chi Feng too much. But all these are things that you can do with a bow, and thank you. All Might will not feel ashamed and faceless. His state of mind is beyond the reach of ordinary people. This is the heart of All Might, a heart with passion and love in blood. Chapter 49 Small Steel Cannon vs Wild Mountain. It was already 4:30 in the afternoon after Chi Feng left the police station, and he casually found a sushi restaurant to have dinner. After solving the dinner, Chi Feng drove directly to Shibuya by car. There's a highlight tonight, and he must go to watch the game. Here. As soon as Chi Feng walked into the black market, he heard a familiar voice sound, that Pingyuan Shangda was here so early. Do you have nothing to do every day? Watching the game every day? Chi Feng walked over. This guy seems to be a frequent visitor here, otherwise it would be impossible to know so much about black boxing. Of course, I don't go to work or school, the first officer Pingyuan Shang said naturally. If you don't go to work or school, where can you get the money to eat? Chi Feng asked. Isn't this waiting for you to invite me to eat? Didn't you say that you won? Please eat, Pingyuan Shangda said puzzledly. Roll. Chi Feng scolded, tell Lousy the truth. Pingyuan Shangda touched the back of his head. Actually, I'm setting up a stall here, selling some medicinal materials. My father is a doctor. Usually there are some things that are not easy to deal with. I get them here to make them. Otherwise, do you think how I live to this day, relying on rice? I also think it's not easy for you to live to this day. Chi Feng suddenly smiled. He didn't expect this hero to be a speculative business. FK your sister. Pingyuan Shang cursed. Okay, don't talk to me. When will the small steel cannon come? Chi Feng asked with a full face after the quarrel with Pingyuan Shang. You keep your voice down. It is impolite to say that the small steel cannon. If he hears you, you will be dead. Pingyuan Shangda looked around for a while, but fortunately no one heard him. There is 1.5 hours. He estimated that he would come over in advance and prepare in 1 hour. How strong is the opponent who challenged him this time? Chi Feng asked. In terms of strength, there are many people who are optimistic about the small steel cannon, but no one can say exactly how it is. After all, it is the first time that the other party has come to challenge. Pingyuan Shangda analyzed. Challenge one of the 5 kings the first time you challenge? Chi Feng was cheerful. This guy is really courageous. Isn't it? Many people said that he was looking for death. Pingyuan Shangda said with some regret, as if he had seen the guy's fall. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. Chi Feng asked. What are the odds for both parties? 1 to 5. Pingyuan Shangda said meaningfully. Why, want to take a gamble? Of course, but I want to see those two people know which side of the bet. Chi Feng fixed his gaze on the screen on the left, which contains tonight's game process and list. One of the most eye-catching is the small steel cannon of one of the 5 kings. The other opponent is called Barbarian Mountain. You can feel the strength of the opponent by hearing the name, but everything must be determined by seeing a real person. For more than an hour, Chi Feng and Pingyuan Shangda were watching the arena match. There were at least 5 or 6 players in the arena for more than an hour. No one sympathized with the deaths and injuries. However, Chi Feng found that the strength of these players is very average. If he takes the stage to challenge, he can kill his opponents in seconds. This kind of player simply earns some living expenses and can support himself. It may earn more than outsiders, but it is also limited. Chi Feng can't understand these people. Some of them are not very murderous, but they have to fight for their lives here in exchange for some relatively high money. But is this interesting? If you die, what? It's all gone.
Chi Feng shook his head and did not continue thinking. Everyone has his own way of living, and he has no right to interfere.
At this moment, Pingyuan Shangda on the side suddenly screamed, here comes. Chi Feng followed the majestic gaze of the plane. Not far from a dark passage, a man in a red cloak walked out of him. He was not tall, at about 1 meter and 7 meters tall. He was very muscular. At first glance, he was very powerful, kind of. Little steel cannon. Little steel cannon. The crowd suddenly boiled, and it seemed that this one of the 5 kings called Xiaogingpao was very popular. Chi Feng saw Himiko Toga in the crowd. Today, she also wore a school uniform as usual. She looked plain. It seemed that nothing could affect her in general. Maybe she was not very interested in the small steel gun player. Thinking of that evening, Chi Feng suddenly got up and down. It was a crime.
Xiao Gangpao walked onto the ring surrounded by the crowd. He checked the time, and there were 10 minutes left before his opponent was coming. Although he is one of the 5 kings, he is ranked 4th, so someone will challenge him from time to time. He is also very upset about this, but he is helpless. His strength remains at most 5 kings 4th, and those ranked ahead of him. The guys are all perverts, he can't beat them.
Chi Feng observed this small steel cannon. Generally speaking, he did not see what quirk this guy was. 10 minutes later, another man walked out of the dark passage. When this man walked out, Chi Feng knew that the small steel cannon on the stage was finished. This person should be the challenger Mansion. He is 1.9 meters tall. The muscles are not explosive, but the kind of very low body fat, but the muscle lines are very obvious, and Chi Feng feels from this Mansion there was a hint of danger. This should be Barbarian Mountain. Although he's a bit tall, I don't think he is the opponent of the small steel gun. Wang Dao said with scorching eyes. He has been here all the year round, and he has long known the appearance and posture of each player, as long as he sees it. He can roughly guess whether a person is strong or weak. But Chi Feng shook his head and said, you are wrong. It is not Mansion who will lose, but the small steel cannon. Don't talk. Pingyuan Shangda looked disbelief. Can I make a mistake? Chi Feng didn't pay attention to the majesty of the plains, and went to bet on his own. He directly bought the wild mountain for 50,000 yen with an odds of 1 to 5. If he wins, it will be 250,000 yen. After placing a good bet, Mansion has already embarked on the ring. The ring is 400 square meters in size, which is enough for the two to show off their skills. Moreover, the ring is very strong, and the onlookers know that they can't get too close to avoid being affected. This kind of thing happened before. One of the 7 saints fought, and as a result, all the spectators were killed by mistake. Since then, the ring has been strengthened, and the masses dare not get too close. Chi Feng is not afraid that these two will affect him. He walked directly to the front end to watch the battle, and he saw it clearly here, and he could even feel the breath of the two on the stage. Pingyuan Shangda also walked up at this time, side by side with Chi Feng. Aren't you afraid of death? Chi Feng looked at Pingyuan Shangda in surprise. In Chi Feng's eyes, Pingyuan Shangda belongs to the kind of guy who is a little greedy for life and fear of death. Do you think this ring is paper, and the quirk of the small steel cannon is tempered? There is no danger. Hirayama Iida looked confident. He bet the small steel cannon 100,000 yen, this time again can splurge for a while. Chapter 50. Chi Feng heard Hirayama say that the quirk of the small steel gun is tempered, and suddenly remembered one person. Isn't the quirk of Tetsu just steel? These two people should be the same. You're the challenger, Mansion? Xiaoging Gun glanced up and down at Mansion. He was uncomfortable with people taller than himself. Is 1.9 meters great? He has beaten even 2 meters. Man Shan glanced at the little man faintly. Go ahead, you will be able to see your ancestors soon. What are you talking about? Xiaogingpao was so angry that he met such an arrogant person for the first time. Chi Feng noticed that this guy named Mansion seemed to be killing him, otherwise he wouldn't say such things at first. It seems that Xiaoging Cannon will be killed today. Hello everyone, audience friends. Suddenly a voice sounded, and the lights shone towards the back of the ring, only to see a young man in a suit on the high platform smiling at everyone. I'm your old friend, Simi Ichiro. Today's challenger is the small steel gun that ranks 4th among the 5 kings, and the challenger is called Mansion. It is the first time to come to the Underground Heroes venue. Then, let's wait and see. With a wave of the host, the time has come and the game begins. You will pay for what you just said. The small steel cannon's arms shook forward and turned into pitch black in an instant. Chi Feng found that the quirk of this small steel cannon can only be on the arms, and the rest of the body there are no parts, but the steel color of his quirk is very dark, much darker than Tetsu. It may also be very strong in hardness. At least Chi Feng knows that this small steel gun is much stronger than Tetsu. With half-opened eyes, Mansion suddenly widened, and a shock burst out between his legs, and he punched the small steel cannon.
The small steel gun spit out disdainfully, and his black right arm directly greeted him. If he wanted to compare his strength, that would be death.
However, the next moment Xiao Gingpao's face was distorted, and the audience was even more unbelievable. They thought that Xiao Gingpao was set to win, but such a change would actually happen. Under the impact of Mansion's punch, Xiao Gingcannon's arm, which was as hard as steel, was directly twisted, and it seemed that the bones had been broken from the inside. How could it be like this? Xiao Gangpao's proud quirk collapsed directly with a punch from the Wild Mountain. He is the fourth among the 5 kings. Chi Feng's gaze narrowed. This Mansion is very weird. His quirk Chi Feng can't see it until now. It's just that when the punch collided, a shockwave appeared from Mansion's body, and the hand of the small steel gun distorted directly. Shockwave. Chi Feng seems to understand a little bit. It is possible that the quirk of Mansion is a shockwave, but he does not know what kind of characteristics the shockwave is, so it is difficult to judge. But what Chi Feng knows is that this man named Mansion is very strong. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. At this time, the host was also stunned. He was also a little unbelievable. To be honest, he was optimistic about the small steel cannons.
After all, the small steel cannons were one of the 5 kings who won for a long time, and he was actually given to him by an unknown person.
It's incredible to be beaten. It seemed that Mansion didn't want to give the small steel cannon a chance. He came directly in front of him, and suddenly patted the small steel cannon's head with his hands, and then pulled hard. A head flew directly into the sky, and blood instantly came out of the broken neck.
Gushing out, blood was dripping on the ring soon.
The audience held their breath, and after a long time someone suddenly yelled, "Man Mountain, Man Mountain." At this time, the host also reacted and announced, "The 4th king of the new term is born. He is, Mansion. Let's congratulate him," the host exclaimed excitedly. It seemed that he had seen too many bloody pictures, so he was paralyzed. This battle brought him more surprise and excitement. The same is true for the audience. Even Hirayama Yuta takes it for granted, but his face is a little dark at this time, and the 100,000 yen is gone. Ping Yuan is not the only one with a black face. Most of the people present defeated the small steel cannon, but the result was such a complete loss. Himiko Toga smiled unexpectedly. Chi Feng was puzzled. Did she buy it from Mansion to win? Man Shan stood on the ring and felt this moment. With bloodline Madara on his body, he suddenly smiled, and then turned to leave the ring. No one knows what the smile he meant by just now. More people think that he did it for celebrate yourself. The battle ended very quickly, but the results of the battle spread more quickly. Almost instantly everyone knew in the Underground Heroes venue, and even some people who were not here got the news. Each said that they regretted that they missed a good scene. No matter how glamorous you were in your lifetime, you can hardly wish it after death. At this moment, a word rang in Chi Feng's ears. Chi Feng turned his head to look at him. I don't know when there was an unusually beautiful woman standing beside him. She was wearing a white dress. Although she was wearing a veil, her face could not be hidden. The woman turned her head and smiled at Chi Feng, then quietly left. Hey, Shangda. Chi Feng turned around and patted Pingyuan Shangda's shoulder. At this time, Pingyuan Shangda squatted on the ground in pain, hammering the ground with his hands. Don't call me. Laozi is in a bad mood now. Pingyuan Shangda said in anguish, 100,000 yuan, it's just like that, how can he live these days? Chi Feng smiled and said, why, you lost money. Don't bother me. Pingyuan Shangda was heartbroken when he heard this, and he regretted it. Don't be discouraged, I will treat you to a big meal tonight. Chi Feng helped Pingyuan Shangda up. Really? Pingyuan Shangda seemed to find a trace of comfort and asked tentatively. Of course it is true, but you have to answer me a question. Chi Feng laughed. Pingyuan Shangda immediately said, you said, I will tell you what I know. Did you see the woman in white next to me just now? Chi Feng asked. No, where is the woman in white clothes? Dream about it, there has never been white clothes in this Underground Heroes venue. Pingyuan Shangda suddenly stopped his words, he thought of a person. No, there is a woman who likes to wear white clothes, but how could a character like her come to watch the small steel gun game? Pingyuan Shangda immediately vetoed it by himself, but Chi Feng was struggling. Tell me, who is it? One of the 7 saints, Bai Shui. Pingyuan Shangda informed. Chi Feng was taken aback. That woman was Bai Shui, one of the 7 saints? And it seems to smile at him. Chi Feng wears the mask of Tiga Ultraman. No one can recognize it. I think you are dazzled. Bai Shui will not appear at this time. Few people will challenge her at this time, and her position has not changed. Pingyuan Shangda has only seen Bai Shui's side. They're all in 3 months ago. Let's go. Go with me to get the money first, and then have a big meal. Chi Feng smiled. This Bai Shui was a bit interesting. Ping Yuan Shangda suddenly jumped up, pointed at Chi Feng and said in surprise, your kid won.